Well,
Morning, everybody. We're going to call our meeting to order. This is the Town of Nags Head Board of Commissioners. It's Wednesday, July 3rd, and this is our regular session. If you'll join me in a moment of silent meditation. Amen. If you'll join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
tomorrow's the 4th.
I'd like to welcome everybody this morning. I always feel like I'm back in Boy Scouts when we say the Pledge of Allegiance. Ben Gallup is sitting in for John Leidy this morning from Hornthal, Riley, Ellis, and Malin. And our first item today is the adoption of the agenda.
Move to adopt as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, like sign. Motion passes unanimously. This is the time that we set aside for audience response. Please, if you will, come up to the podium, give us your name, your address, and give us your thoughts.
Good morning. My name is John Kostoulis, my wife Kay. We traveled down from Virginia this morning. We live in Poquoson, Virginia, small town, very much like the town of Nags Head. Mayor Oaks and commissioners, we're new property owners to the town of Nags Head, and wanted to compliment you guys on, I'm involved in the city government back in my hometown, and want to compliment you guys on how you have transparency in your agenda, transparency in the information that the public can see. It seems like it's a very good interaction, and you have good opportunities to comment and review the decision-making that's going on. Later on in your agenda, I think it's under item K, you're going to be approving and discussing the adoption of an encroachment agreement with Moongate Partners and the town of Nags Head. I know a lot of city members and a lot of staff have been working on that agreement and making sure that everything's in order, to make sure that it improves the drainage, it improves the aesthetics, it improves the values of the area. And I'm here to say thank you, because I know it takes a lot of work between the public side and the private side and even residents to get an agreement that's a win-win-win for everybody. And it's not very often that that happens. And it appears, just looking through all the information, that there's a solution in place that will help, the state, it'll help the town, it'll remove an eyesore and potentially even a liability issue that's there. And I think it's a win-win, and just wanted to say thank you for all your hard work and all your efforts. And then I also noticed in your agenda that you have, I believe it's under new business, item 3, an MOA between the Board of Education for a school resource officer. And being on the one of my duties was as chairman of the school board in my town. And I don't know which way you guys are working through and which way you guys stand on the school resource officer, but I can tell you they're a very valuable asset to your school. People immediately think safety, but it's more than that. If you have a school resource officer that becomes friends with the children, friends with the parents, friends with the teachers, it can help students and kids make better decisions and keep them from making poor decisions. They can head off a lot of issues. They can be very proactive with their partnership with the school itself and the kids and the parents. We have adopted school resource officers in some of our schools, and they've been very, very, very beneficial, as long as it's done the right way. And I think you guys are going about it the right way, getting the MOU in place and that sort of thing. So I just wanted to come here and speak this morning and say thank you to everybody that's worked on all the issues associated with the drainage and the culvert and the encroachment agreement. And that's all. Thank you. Have a good morning.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming, sir.
My name's Gary Oliver. I'm the Outer Banks Pier in South Nags Head. A couple things. Number one, on the causeway at Little Bridge, this is the third time I've been here to speak about the problem there. We've had a lot of problems there over the years, and never has anything been solved. And the median they put in now is really a terrible thing. When you come from the east, you can't really see the median because of the height of the bridge. And there have been a lot of squealing tires and some close wrecks right there. What we need, and we've needed all along, is a crosswalk with a stop sign where you push a button like you do at Jockey's Ridge. You've got a great parking lot there, which the town put in, and we appreciate that. But we need something to help these people. That medium was maybe a good idea on paper, but in reality, it's not working. The other thing I want to talk about is Jeanette's Pier. Last spring, as we all know, there was discussion of privatizing the pier. I can tell you, if I had a lease to run the pier, the first thing I'd do is get a beer license, and the second thing I'd do is put in a restaurant, and that would be done very quickly. My concern is there's been some talk of a beer license being purchased for the pier now. It's not a part of the vision we were told about when we were told about Jeanette's Pier, as a lot of things haven't been. We need to protect what we've got. We need to protect people like Lionel Shannon and the people at Salmonomi's and the other restaurants in the area, and protect what we've got as far as the beach access there. We need to make sure that the town of Nags Head has some control over the sale of alcohol on privately purchased property or publicly purchased property, whether it be state, local, or county. It could be a temporary permit, but by doing that, any property which was purchased with public money would have to come to the town to get a permit, and we should make that local. But I'd suggest y'all put a moratorium on beer licenses right now until something's worked out, because it could happen, and it would be a tragic thing for the businesses in the town and for the people of Nags Head. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary.
Morning, Board. I'm here on behalf of Ocean Rescue Captain Chad Moats. He is concluding some morning activities with Ocean Rescue, but I'm here to notify you about July 10th and 11th. The United States Life Saving Association Regional Championships will be held down in Nags Head by Jeanette's Pier, and we expect hundreds of competitors from Virginia all the way down to Florida. Their families will be here, and they'll be cheering on their favorite lifeguards, and we are looking forward to that series of events. Lifeguard competition events that will represent what our ocean rescue staff do on a day in and day out basis. Nags Head has done very well in the past, taking either first or second in the region, and we look forward to making a good presentation as a small team once again. So, just in his advisory, come on down to Jeanette's Pier on July 10th and 11th. Enjoy the festivities.
Thank you, Chief.
Mayor and Board, I wanted to take just a moment to let you all know that Coastal Science and Engineering has received another award for our beach nourishment project. It's through the American Council of Engineering Companies. It's awarded to engineering firms for engineering excellence. The beach nourishment project has been nationally recognized and awarded for this excellence in engineering. Coastal Science and Engineering won on the state level, which meant that they then were invited to enter into this national competition. It comes down to about 24 award winners, 24 honored projects, and then 8 that are kind of the top tier. It's another feather in our cap. It's more proof that the project has been recognized not only nationally, but I think it's been recognized throughout the world. It shows that beach nourishment works well to protect greatly from storms. And as we are entering into the hurricane season, I was going through some items in preparation for this and was reminded that As the board remembers, Sandy, and I think it was Sandy, cost us $93 to protect our beach accesses, compared to close to $400,000 before beach nourishment for Hurricane Isabel. And then when you multiply that with all the damage, the lack of damage, I guess, for private property, it really is paying off. So this is another award. This goes along with the North Carolina Beach and Inlet Waterways Association Award. And then you'll remember most recently the project was recognized as one of the nation's best restored beaches by the American Shore and Beach Preservation Association. So, Mayor, I'll present this to you. Say congratulations to the board.
Thank you. On behalf of the board, I'll accept it, and thank you to Tim Connor and his team and his staff, because they really did a lot of the work in getting this done for us.
It's beautiful.
Very nice. It's worth at least $500,000, I'd say.
Yeah.
Anybody else for public comment today? That said, we're going to close public comment and call on Chief Brinkley. Sorry, I'm a little slow, Chief. Yes, I have the proclamation.
Yes, sir.
Would you like to have it read first and then
Yes, sir.
speak
That-
on it?
that would be fine.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you.
Be glad to. This is the proclamation from the town of Nags Head about National Night Out in 2013. Whereas the National Association of Town Watch is sponsoring a unique nationwide crime, drug, and violence prevention program on Tuesday, August the 6th, 2013, called National Night Out. And whereas the 30th annual National Night Out provides a unique opportunity for the town of Nags Head to join forces with thousands of other communities across the country in promoting cooperative police community crime prevention efforts. And whereas the Nags Head Community Watch Association plays a vital role in assisting the Nags Head Police Department through joint crime, drug, and violence prevention efforts in the town of Nags Head, and is supporting National Night Out 2013 locally. And whereas it is essential that all citizens of the town of Nags Head be aware of the importance of crime programs and the impact that their participation can have on reducing crime, drug, and violence in the town of Nags Head. And whereas police-community partnerships, neighborhood safety, awareness, and cooperation are important themes of the National Night Out program, therefore I do hereby call upon all citizens of the town of Nags Head to join the Nags Head Community Watch Association and the National Association of Town Watch in supporting the 30th annual National Night Out on August the 6th, 2013. Further, let it be resolved that I, Bob Oakes, do hereby proclaim Tuesday, August the 6th, 2013 as National Night Out in the town of Nags Head, Dare County, North Carolina. This, the 3rd day of July. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for the proclamation from you and the other board members. Would like to invite everybody to come out to our National Night Out celebration. It's Tuesday, August the 6th, beginning at 5 p.m. At Nags Head Elementary School. Dare County Board of Education and Dr. Palma, the principal at Nags Head Elementary, have been gracious enough to allow us to use the gymnasium and cafeteria for our National Night Out events. We will have hamburgers and hot dogs, so come out and get yourself some food. We'll have canine demonstrations from our two dogs with our police department. We'll have car safety seat checks. We have support from our local businesses. Outer Banks Hospital will be there, Hotline will be there, Walk Against Addiction, Jockey's Ridge, and our North Carolina Aquarium. There may also be some other ones, but we do hope that everyone comes out and joins us. Last year we made quite a few changes to our event. We made it more interactive. We had children's events, and this year we want to take that to the next level. Be events for children of all ages, and just hope that everyone can come out and join us. Again, 5 o'clock, Tuesday, August the 6th at Nags Head Elementary School.
It's 5 o'clock Tuesday, August the 6th.
Yes,
and
sir.
Y'all have been doing this since nearly the start. It's a long-standing tradition in Nags Head, and we appreciate you and the Community Watch and the rest of the staff.
It is. It was started back in the mid 1990s, and we've continued to grow and get a lot of positive comments, and the interaction with our public, visitors, and residents alike are certainly enjoyable.
Well, thank you, Chief. Thank you for
Mayor.
bringing it forward.
Move to adopt proclamation as presented.
Second.
Further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, like sign. The motion passes unanimously. This is time that we set aside for recognition. Ms. Kinney?
Morning. It's my privilege and pleasure to come before you this morning to introduce to you Admin Services' newest employee. Kim Blankenberg started as an accounting supervisor on June 10th. She has almost 20 years of experience in corporate accounting for a local development company. She also served the last 6 years as a teacher for First Flight High School. She has her Master's of Education from Liberty University and her Bachelor's of Science from Elizabeth City State University. She lives in Dare County with her husband and 3 children, the oldest of which starts college in the fall. She's already proven to be a very valuable asset to the town and our department. I look forward to coming back to you in 5 years to recognize her for 5 years of service. Introducing Kim Blankenberg.
Very glad to have you.
Welcome.
Thank you very much. Nice to meet you. Welcome. Thank you so much. Welcome. Nice to meet you. Thank you so much.
Good morning.
Hi, good morning. On behalf of the town and its employees, I want to express our thanks to the 2012-13 Wellness Committee for a job well done. A big thank you goes out to our wellness team for organizing wellness events, keeping the wellness program fresh, and keeping employees informed of the activities going on throughout the year. Some of the events that were held this year was a monthly newsletter. Thank you to Gina Elko for publishing the wellness newsletter each month. We had Challenge Wave events, which was a virtual trek across the United States. Nags Head employees competed against other municipal employees by logging miles across the state for completing physical activities. We did one event in the fall and one in the spring. We had a wellness initiative in September. Employees participated in an on-site wellness screening and personal wellness profile. Screenings included lipid panels, glucose screening, blood pressure checks, body composition, flexibility, endurance, and overall fitness testing. Each participant received a confidential and comprehensive individual health assessment with tips for maintaining and achieving a healthier lifestyle. We did the Couch to 5K event. The Nags Head team participated in the Relay for Life event. We competed against area municipalities for various awards. That was a lot of fun. We had Tastefully Fit cooking sessions with Chef Wes Stepp. We had participation in the Outer Banks Hospital sponsored free events such as skin cancer screenings, living with diabetes, healthy heart programs, and dinner with docs events in the evenings. We had a back safety program and audiometric testing, CPR training. And the town also received a grant from the North Carolina League of Municipalities to purchase exercise equipment, and we thank Roberta for applying for that and doing the grant process. This year we had 100% employee participation in the wellness program. To show our thanks, the Wellness Committee hosted an appreciation luncheon at the new Wellbone Park, which was a lot of fun. We have a very active wellness program, and we're very appreciative of all the employees that participate. We can tell that it works. The average health insurance increase throughout the state of North Carolina for government entities that are with the League of Municipalities was 19.6%. The town's increase was only 7%. Through the wellness program, employees are becoming more and more aware of the advantages of the wellness program and choosing a healthier lifestyle. Over the year, I've had several employees that have come into my office and said, I'm so glad that I went. I found out that I was a borderline diabetic. They told me how to take care of it through diet and exercise, and then a couple of months they'd come back later and say, hey, it's all good. Or I found out that maybe my blood pressure was a little high, I need to take care of it. And they even had a couple of instances that were very, very grateful that they took it a step further and had some of the annual routine screenings that helped them to prevent some things that could have potentially been dangerous in years to come. So employees are really starting to recognize the advantages of the wellness program. So thank you very much, Board of Commissioners, for encouraging the wellness program and making it a part of the employee benefit package. And thank you very much, Wellness Committee, for all that you do to plan and execute events, in addition to all of the other duties and responsibilities that you have in your position. And thank you to all of the employees for participating and making the program a success. It's a job well done. So right now I'd like to introduce our committee members to you. We have representatives from every department in the town. Some of them are with us today. We have Laura Gilreath, who is our chairperson. We have Gina Elko, She does the newsletter. We have Vince Hobson, Chad Moats, Cody McKinney, Angela Welsh, Roberta Thuman, who handled the grant program, Mark Bernard, Nancy Carawan, and Vicki Wright. So as you see, it's representatives from all over the town. So if Laura would come up on behalf of the Wellness Committee. Of course, this is healthy fruit basket that we're giving to all of the Wellness Committee members. So I'm going to present this to Laura, our chairperson. She's worked so hard in keeping the wellness team together and keeping them committed and keeping things fresh. I have one for every wellness team member, but I didn't bring all 10 of these baskets over. So if you will stop by my office, I have them in the office for you. And again, thank you so much. It's because of you that this program is being successful and because of the employees participating. And you make it fun. So thank you, and thank you for all your hard work. Thank you very much.
Congratulations to everybody, especially getting a newsletter out once a month is hard work. I can tell you that from experience, and 100% participation is rare in anything.
Thank you, Mayor. Back real quick before you to recognize Police Officer First Class Doug Ludden for 5 years of service to the town of Nags Head. Prior to joining the town of Nags Head in 2008, Doug worked with the Kenly, North Carolina Police Department, where he began in 2005. He went to high school there in that area in Smithfield, went to Johnston County Community College, where he obtained an associate's degree. In his free time, Doug enjoys spending time with his wife and child, and also enjoys surfing. So congratulations to Doug on 5 years of service. Thank you.
Years goes by really fast, doesn't it? Congratulations. We've got a small token of our appreciation. And we certainly want to see you here for another 20 years or so. Yes, sir. Thank you.
It flew by really quickly.
Thank you. Yeah. 5 years, just go by.
Morning again, Mayor, Board. It's my pleasure to recognize Fire Captain Shane Height on the 10th anniversary of town service. Also want to recognize his mom, Lynette, his daughters, Rebecca, Amber, and Abby, who were in the first row, snapping pictures furiously. So I tried to get them up here, but yeah. I can't say enough wonderful things about Captain Height. He is an effective professional fire officer, excellent incident commander at emergency scenes, works well with all organizations, and mitigates hazards, providing for scene safety. It's in his blood, as he is the officially designated safety officer for the town. And the safety officer role is not always a popular one with the employees. He completes these duties with respect and reliability, and his dedication shows in a town-wide reduction of workplace injuries and increased participation in safety programming. So he's done an excellent job for us, and that commutes to saving money for the town. During his tenure, Captain Height achieved his Associate of Fire Science degree from Coastal Carolina Community College and is now currently attending classes at the same institution to attain his emergency management degree. So he's a believer in lifelong learning and is a regular attendee at the National Fire Academy. Not only does he attend, but he brings back all those knowledge, skills, and abilities to the fire department and implements those for us. And so he's quite an asset there. He manages the child safety seat program for the fire department, ensuring the safety of all those coming in to make sure their seats are installed and they get the proper equipment, and provides for the safety of Dare County children. Captain Height successfully worked to develop the plans and specifications for our new aerial apparatus and ladder truck. Did an excellent job with that, permitting the unit's construction with the oversight and features that best serve us. And he just spent an immeasurable number of hours researching and developing those specifications. And it's not over yet, but we're looking forward to good things there. Lastly, and most importantly, Shane balances his heavy professional workload with his personal responsibilities. He often participates in community activities with his 3 daughters, and he is a humble, dedicated, and conscientious family man. Fire Captain Height has a bright future in the Nags Head Fire Department, and his dedication is hereby recognized.
We have a small token of our appreciation.
Thank you very much.
Many more years.
Thank you very much for all you do. Thank you. And you too. Thank you. Thank you.
Great job, Kevin.
Our next item is our consent agenda.
Motion to adopt.
We have a motion and a second. I heard somewhere in there. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
All those opposed, like sign. Motion passes unanimously. That takes us to our first public hearing. We'll give them a few seconds to get out the door. And this first public hearing is a public hearing to consider a zoning ordinance text amendments to amend Town Code Section 48-861C, Village at Nags Head Commercial 1 District, to allow aerobic class, dance school, karate school as a permitted use within shopping centers.
Good morning, Mayor and Commissioners. As you stated, this is a zoning ordinance text amendment. It was submitted by Simone Indris and Sabrina Hassel of the Outer Banks Elite Dance Company. They've requested to go ahead and allow dance studio as a use permitted within the Village at Nags Head Commercial 1 District. And as we always talk about text amendments not being site-specific, this isn't. However, the Commercial 1 District is a very small district within the town. It consists of the Outer Banks Mall, the out parcels for Applebee's and Outback, and then across West Sea Chase, it's the BB&T Bank and the Eye Care Center. So that encompasses the entire Commercial 1 District. The town already allows aerobic class, karate school, and dance school within the Commercial 2, or the C2 General Commercial and the C3 Commercial Services District. For consistency purposes, we've maintained that same language in proposing the use within the Village Commercial C1 District. Additionally, there's already a parking standard that's been established, so we don't need to recreate that parking standard. Based upon our calculations that we had received from Quibel and Associates when, for a previous review before the board, there is more than adequate parking within the Outer Banks Mall to accommodate dance, aerobic, and karate schools. Given that the requested use already exists in 2 commercial districts within the town, and that it would provide additional educational and recreational opportunities within the community, would also help eliminate vacant storefronts, planning staff recommends adoption of the zoning ordinance text amendment as it's been proposed, and the planning board at their last meeting also unanimously recommended adoption of the text amendment as proposed. So, happy to answer any questions, and it looks like we have Lois Williams from Rosemere and Simone Indris here as well.
Thank you, Kelly. Any questions for Kelly? We're going to turn it over to Ben to run our public hearing for us.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a public hearing, again, for an ordinance proposed to modify Section 48-861 of the Village Commercial 1 District of the town zoning ordinance to allow for aerobic class, dance school, karate school within the uses in that district. The public hearing is now open. If you wish to speak to it, please raise your hand and I will recognize you, and if you'll state your name and address when you go to the podium. Does anybody wish to speak to the public hearing?
Good morning. My name is Simone Endres. My address is 116 West Windjammer and Nags Head, North Carolina. We just want to I apologize actually that my other partner is not here due to her work schedule. She was not able to make it, but she does understand the importance of this meeting. And on behalf of both of us, we just wanted to thank the board for considering this text amendment. And from what we have done so far and what we have experienced through the community, we have gotten wonderful feedback. If there's ever a chance that you can look at our website or you can ask us any questions, we have the credentials and the background to make this work, and we feel that this would be a wonderful asset to the community. It would bring in business, and from Martins Point all the way down to Mania, we have families coming in from all over that is interested and have shown wonderful support again for us, and would be bringing their children to our studio and bringing business to Nags Head as well.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Does anyone else in the audience wish to speak to this public hearing? Seeing no one, Mr. Mayor, I'll close the public hearing and hand it back to you.
Thank you, sir. Comments, questions from the board? Entertain a motion?
Move to adopt.
We have a motion on the floor. We have a second.
Second.
Thank you, ma'am. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, like sign. Motion passes unanimously. Congratulations, y'all. I must be missing a page. That's the only public hearing I've got. Our next one is reports and recommendations from the Planning Board and the Planning and Development Director.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor, members of the Board of Commission. Today in your packet, you will see a contract from Barnhill Construction Company. We're asking for your approval of this contract so that we may proceed with improvements to the Carolinian Circle roadway. Again, this will be road improvements for the neighborhood that is there behind Cajun Tuna. The project encompasses a crushed asphalt surface for the entire neighborhood, as well as a sidewalk connection between Satterfield Landing Park and the neighborhood. And at special request of two of the property owners, we're going to do some additional asphalt surfacing, which those property owners are paying for that additional cost to do. I'm happy to answer any questions, and Mr. Ryan is here to help with any technical or engineering questions you might have.
Questions for Mr. Ryan?
I do, Mayor. Elizabeth, can you just refresh my memory as to the payback from each individual property owner?
Yes, ma'am. There is a spreadsheet of assessments that we did based on construction cost estimates, and it is tied to the linear footage of each property owner adjacent to that roadway, including the town, by the way, and the Satterfield Landing piece, which is right here. The total cost of the project is going to be, my contract here. Total cost of the project is going to be $1,141 for the sidewalk connection, and then $37,320 for the crushed asphalt surface, and then just over $18,000 for the additional pavement surface. But we're also going to include that paved surface on this sort of access road, and all the property owners have agreed to share that cost together because it serves all of them equally.
Okay, but it's the payback. I mean, how many years did we?
They have 10 years in which to do their payback on the assessment. However, some of the property owners may be paying us up front.
Okay.
Once the project is completed, there'll be 30 days from the end of completion for us to understand which the property owners will have that opportunity to do a full payback or to go through a payment process with the town.
Okay. It's a great example of another private-public partnership that we did years ago. I'm glad to see that it's going to work.
We hope so. Yes.
Other questions for Elizabeth? Anything? Entertain a motion?
I move that we approve the contract for them to forge ahead.
Second.
We have a motion on the floor, and we have a second. Is there further discussion? Nice job, y'all. It's taken a long time to get to this point, so we're almost there. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, like sign. Motion passes unanimously.
Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I do have a quick question. I'd like to ask Ralph about drainage issues once we get that road in. Once we've got that assisted road, whatever you want to call it, the issue.
There are swells put in this project for around the road.
Is there something that goes with the road or something that we're putting?
Yes, it goes with the road.
Okay, that's all I need.
Yes, sir. New business. Chief Brinkley. This is a consideration of an appeal for a taxi cab driver permit denial.
Mayor, I'm not sure if our applicant is here today. William Harrell. It was my understanding through our town clerk, Mayor, that she had tried a number of times to make contact with him. Attorney Gallup, I'll go ahead and proceed with my information.
I believe that's fine. The way the ordinance reads is it will be the next meeting. So when he filed his notice of appeal, he should have known that it was the next meeting without necessarily receiving any specific notice.
Yes, sir.
He's been notified.
Oh, yeah, numerous times.
I don't think there's any action to take.
No sense in
No.
really going through.
It's denied because he hadn't shown. He or she.
Additionally, the burden is on him in the appeal to present evidence to show that he should have gotten the permit. If he doesn't appear and present evidence, then he should not prevail on his appeal.
You got to show up.
No further information.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mayor.
I would, Mr. Mayor, take a vote to deny the appeal.
Move to deny.
Second.
We have a motion on the floor. We have a second. Is there further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, like sign. Motion passes unanimously. Committee reports. Anything to report?
I
Mayor Pro Tem?
have a couple. One of them with the assistance of our planning director. I attended my first Outer Banks Family YMCA Master Planning meeting, which was held on June the 20th. With the planning director, both of us are now sitting on that committee as appointed by you all. It was a very interesting meeting for my first time, of course. They had already previously met. I met the rest of the committee members and did in fact bring up, some of our concerns, as was previously stated, with the YMCA, particularly the situation with the skateboard park, the not being notified about issues that pertain to us directly, us basically being plank holders in the whole operation, and that was received very well, as a matter of fact, and they agreed that the town of Nags Head should not have been left out of any of the process that was done. So anyway, with that, that was just, I plan on meeting with our local director and to talk about other issues as they come up. But other than that, I will let our planning director report on the meeting, because she is, again, like I said, this is my first, and the process now is I have in front of us is the master planning process is starting with a questionnaire that we need to fill out. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. O'Malley. The YMCA Strategic Planning Committee is set up to look at the future of the YMCA with the idea of, now that the facility is in place, it's very well served. It's always a good moment in time to step back and to survey and understand from your users and from the community at large how the YMCA can better serve the community. Secondly, there is a particular issue, and this came up in our Parks and Recreation Plan, about the use of that skateboard park. The town actually helped to install that skateboard park. It's not getting a lot of use. There is a liability there, and it needs some repair. And so the question is on the table as to what to do with the skateboard park and that space in particular. The first step in this process is to, again, get information from the community at large. And so the committee was wanting to be able to find the most effective and appropriate way to interact with this board. They've developed a survey that they would like to send out to their members, but they also would like to have an opportunity to talk either one-on-one with each one of you or as a group, whichever is your pleasure. Mr. O'Malley and I committed to the committee that we would ask you what your preferred method of input would be and to take that information back to the committee. So your choices would be a one-on-one interview, just a written survey that you could do, or to meet with members of that Y committee as a group. And of course, we'd have to advertise that meeting if it's a public meeting, so.
And let me inject, or also relate whatever you want to do to me, and then I'll take it as a committee member back to the, in other words, we can draw this thing out where they can come one-on-one with each one of you, which is fine, or we can, as issues develop or come forward, you can just you can just tell me what you want to do and do it that way. I mean, I recommended at the meeting that, that the Board of Commissioners of the town of Nags Head be directly involved in decisions that are made on the Y's part here, because I don't think we, for whatever reason in the past, we weren't notified of things that they were, which we should have been. Just, if nothing else, as a courtesy. So anyway, they understood that. The committee members were very, very receptive to it. Everybody was fine. There's no rub, there's no issue, and they are willing to do it any way that you all want to do it.
What's the board's preference?
Correct me if I'm wrong.
Oh, you're right, I forgot the most obvious method,
Yeah.
which you have a committee member.
You know, Mayor, we've had workshops with the planning board and others in the past, and I think that it's more productive when you have all of the partners, all the players together, because there's so many other ideas that may be out there that if I do a one-on-one survey, I'm not really sure if I'm covering, since I no longer have the youth in my family to participate at the Y, I may be missing something. So I would like a workshop with all of us together. Let's get a time that we all could do this. That's my suggestion.
Okay, we can take that back to them. And I will add that they were very clear in that there's no fixed time frame on this. I think the comment was it takes as long as it takes. So it's very important to go slow at the beginning and get that community input. And I'm sure it may take a while to get all the parties together, because 2 of these committee members are coming from Virginia Beach, I believe. But we will certainly work on that and make that time.
Do we want to shoot for a specific month, maybe? Look at August or September?
November.
Well, if there's, Doug, you said that about the time frame. Now, what are you looking for?
Well, I don't think that, first of all, let me say, there's going to be no decision about taking out any skate park or anything else until these meetings are heard. Yeah, so there's going to be, they are honestly looking for answers from us, so, or some help from us. I don't, and we were, I guess it was Tom Burton that said, there's real no hurry. The time frame is probably within a year or so. So therefore, I mean, as far as
Right.
so September, October, I mean, I would think would be, I don't think, do you feel there's any hurry before that? Should it be?
No, but I know getting your feedback is critical to them moving forward, so I wouldn't want to schedule it too far out. I would say as soon as you feel like it's convenient for this board that we should work that direction.
I just didn't get a sense of urgency from them to let's hurry up and have them. There will be a survey that we're going to fill out and send back to them. Commissioner Cohen?
I had a question. You mentioned a survey, but it was going out to their membership and so forth. But if it's a community survey, is it going to be distributed beyond the membership? If you want to find out what the community needs are, you need to go beyond those people that are already paying money and find out what other people think.
Yes.
That might make it more enticing.
There's actually 3 variations of surveys that they're working on, and they're all in draft stages and have not gone out yet. One was a specific membership survey, and that dealt with things like the facilities that are used. It's like a customer feedback sort of survey. And then there was another one that dealt with sort of the larger community. What are some of the programs that you would like to see happen? What are the things that are happening now that are the most valuable? And ask some broader open-ended questions to the larger community. And then there's this opportunity to have some general questions that they would like to work on with groups, like study groups, which would probably be something we'd bring forward in that workshop setting. So it's not just limited, their public input that they're looking for is not just limited to the membership.
Mr. Walter?
I was just going to say, I think the idea of a workshop is a good idea because you always learn a lot throughout that process from all of the participants. So.
Well, I definitely believe that the different categories of users and/or involvement would list different responses. So soliciting some responses from membership versus maybe from this board, and it's not just this board, it's the community itself. I mean, it's the Outer Banks community that uses it.
It's too much of a hassle.
So there'll be many focus groups, I guess, that'll be asked to get involved.
What would be a good time frame for that workshop that we can start to try
I
and
like what the mayor
schedule?
said, September, October.
Let's shoot for
Yeah.
September.
Okay.
Late September,
We'll take
early
that back.
October, something like that, and see what their availability is, and
Will
that's
do.
far enough out that we can all get together, I think.
Great, thank you.
That suit everybody? Thank you.
Yes, and the second thing is the government access channel met last Wednesday, was it Wednesday? I don't even remember. It was Wednesday. Anyway, I attended the meeting. The reason for that meeting was to finalize issues and concerns over the remaining money in the budget that was, and which was requested, are such as town of Nags Head, we requested money for our programming equipment and so on and so forth. There was some money left over, and which the committee had said if there's money left over and the towns and the members wanted to apply for it, they would. So so we've used up our allotment of money for the towns have used it up, and I'm trying to think of the specific things. It was a very short meeting.
Can we apply for the money?
I mean, I'm guessing that was it. Yeah, that was pretty much it, to make sure that we expended the money that, it was very important. It's very important to Richard Johnson and other members that, this money has been allotted to us to be used, that we use it, and the state doesn't come along and say, well, you didn't use your budget money last year, so. And the school system, of course, is involved, and so Channel 19 and Channel 20 are both. And so we've all gotten our share. And I've got to say that the government access channels and the school access channels, now that we have our program director or program, schools already got their own, but we've hired a part-time person to do the programming, to write the programs and so forth, and it's working exceptionally well. For those who've watched, Channel 20 on TV, some of the first show, the news magazine show is done, and if you've seen it, but any feedback that Joe might have, we could take back to him. But I haven't had anything negative, and so it's all been good. I still wanted to do the most wanted, the Dare County's most wanted, but they didn't go for that. But that's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Walters, any committee reports? Mr. Green?
I have some questions about Doug's report, if you will.
Yes, ma'am.
Allow me. Did you say that there was money left over?
Yeah, there's a certain portion of it that is allotted, up to $20,000 for each entity. We, if Nags Head, for instance, Nags Head used 18,000 or 20,000, almost 20,000, and there was $50 or $60 left over. It went back into that same pot, and then other towns, or we could reapply to do something else. So yes, there was a little money left over, yes.
So, do you know how much money?
I think 6,000. Yeah, 5,000 or 6,000.
Okay, so my question, where I'm going with this, Doug, is will that money, as some budgets do, will it roll over into your next year? And perhaps those who participate in the program will get to pay less money into the program, or do you see increases in the cost of the program where the 6,000 may help to plug the gap? I mean, I'm
We see no, there's no indication of any increases on our part.
Right.
The $1,000 membership that each town puts up is all. That's all we do every year. The money that is appropriated comes out of our grant allotment from the state.
Mm-hmm.
And then we work the budget, which is brought to each entity. We work the budget based on that, and I would like to know, I can't remember, what's the line item? What was the line item for purchasing? We used the 20,000 each. Anyway, it's a $20,000 allotment per entity that's used as needed. For instance, Roberta requested an upgrade on our system, which we put in a grant request for and got the upgrade. And other towns did the same thing. Some other towns are not as advanced as we are. Some other towns are just getting the process started. But anyway, that $20,000 came up to whatever the amount. It's 5 times, so it was 100 and some thousand. And then you put in your grant request for that amount of money, up to your $20,000, not the whole 120, but you know. And that's what the committee decided to do, and it's worked extremely well so far. So we decided that any money that was left over, that you could reapply, and some towns like Manio and others, you know, Manio had a piece of equipment they had to upgrade for an additional $500 and some dollars. So anyway, we expended the money in that line item in the budget, and with the concern being, you know. Not all the counties, are getting what Dare County is getting for this governmental access channel grant. So there, we were concerned, as many governments are, that, you know, if we don't expend the amount of money that we need, I mean, you have to justify it. It's not just giving the money out. There's a justification process there, that we spend it because it is an ongoing project. This is an ongoing project.
So you have a zero balance now
Yes,
to go
ma'am.
into. So you don't have the fear
Correct.
of the money being removed.
Right. That line item is zero balance, yes.
Okay. Okay. Thank you for further explanation.
Sure.
Are you up to me now?
Yes, ma'am, I am.
I met, the Tourism Board actually met at our Nags Head 16 fire station this month. And we were given a great welcome by our town manager, Cliff, and by our fire captain, Gina Elko. Not only did they give us a warm welcome, Gina actually gave a little history to the board of the fire station, which was neat, really was. It was good. We move, I think I've told you before, we move the meetings around every other month so that the board members can see inside municipal buildings. And it's really been an interesting change. We approved the budget for the forthcoming year, which is about 11,000, I wish. No, I don't wish, because if I did wish, then we would get no grants, 11 million. And in reporting on occupancy at sales tax, Dare County gross collection on retail sales, and we only get, when we meet in June, we only get through the April numbers, so we don't have the May numbers. But through April, the retail sales was up from last year, 4.77, and the occupancy and the meals tax is still holding steady. We awarded grants to both Wings Over Water and to the Outer Banks Wedding Weekend and Expo in January. And I think Mr. Ruckles did an excellent job of covering that meeting and reported in yesterday's paper. In fact, I was reading it, I think, all that's in my report. So thank you. It really is. If you haven't read it, it's a whole lot more thorough than mine. But let's see, the website visitations are still growing. Facebook, this is amazing. Facebook has grown from 182,000 users in 2010-2011 to 389,000 at the end of this fiscal year. It just is out there. We had our very first ever tourism summit in May, and it was held in Avon. It was a great turnout, and the feedback and the participation has led to the planning of the next one. So the event site down at the old Windmill Point site is having Friday night movies, I think on every Friday night through July, maybe into August. And then on Thursday during the daytime, the arts and craft show is being held. And I understand that they're having some pretty good success, except for the one near Rainout. The Seafood Festival hold those dates. I think they're going to have an event this year, the night of the 18th, which is the Friday night preceding the big event on Saturday. And we had a visit from our new superintendent, Barclay Trimble. He came and spoke on a number of things going on in the park, and we were able to meet face-to-face with him and ask him questions and getting direct answers, and he's a nice addition to our community. Brent Lane, whose picture is in the Coastland Times, he was the fellow that gave us the economic study on Hatteras Island and how important Hatteras Island is to the economy of Dare. The 20-minute overview was really very informative. It covered a lot of points that must be taken into consideration in trying to put together a figure on a tourism dollar value. And the conclusion was during the 2011 Hatteras Island tourism economy, it generated a base of $204 million in travel expenditures. It employs 2,600 people in tourism, and the tourism industry generated a total payroll of $41 million, contributed $10.3 million in North Carolina state sales state tax, and $9.4 million in local taxes. The occupancy receipts, rental properties and lodging accounted for occupancy receipts of $106 million in 2011. This despite 2 months of the road closure, which they estimate reduced the occupancy receipts by over $2 million. So yes, Hatteras is an economic engine that produces a lot of money for the total figure for Dare County. And we will not have a meeting in July, so that concludes that. And if anybody has any questions about what we're doing, let me know.
Any questions for Commissioner Sadler? Thank you very much.
Welcome.
It's the heat of the tourist season.
Yes.
They are here.
Yes.
I'm
And you know
glad to
what
see
we,
them.
do you know, the executive director and I, the other day, when he was coming up from Hatteras, I said, well, how is the traffic coming from? He said, I smiled all the way. And, you know, they are here. Thank goodness.
Thank you, ma'am. We did have a brief meeting of the Colony Ridge Committee yesterday. We have gotten a package for technical review. I believe the technical review meeting went on after that. Cliff, anything that you could add to that?
Plans moving forward, I believe they'll be before the planning board at their next meeting for the additions. They've actually reduced the lot coverage a little bit, so they're under the 20%. They're adding the additions onto the front of the building. They're making some actual stormwater improvements. We've been able to relocate the dumpster. The building, the facade will change on the east-facing portion of the building. So we've gotten to a point that I think we've been waiting for a very long time, and encouraged by seeing that set of plans be submitted. Tech review went very well. There are very few issues. The building department will have to set up a time with the architect at a later date to go through some things, but it looks like no stumbling blocks at this point.
Any questions on Colony Ridge? I know we've been talking about this one for a while. It does look like we're moving forward.
Thank goodness. I have a comment. I had it under my comment. I took last Saturday and drove through Nags Head, West Side, everywhere. And one of the places I visited was Colony Ridge. I hope that visitors that are here are not going back there. The appearance is worse than awful of the exterior. So my question, I guess, is what is the timeline? I mean, we've been discussing what is the timeline before there's actually something done to the appearance?
The mayor asked that question yesterday, and unfortunately, the right person to answer that question was not in the room.
No.
I want to hold the...
It's another step in that process, y'all, and we're not in complete control of that process, but seeing at least some movement there, this is a big step. I mean, getting to technical review and just being able to see the outside elevations, they're moving.
Almore and
Not as fast as
Associates.
we'd like them to, but they are moving.
Almore and Associates are the engineers, and they seem to be pushed a little bit. I mean, I was encouraged that there seems to be a desire to get this done, more so than we had seen in the past.
I don't know if any of the audience or any of you all have been back there recently, but I would be embarrassed if I had my parent or a relative in there. I know the care is exceptional, that's what I hear, but it is appalling how the owner has allowed that building to look. I can't imagine somebody driving in there and wanting to put their relative there. So I'm just saying, this has taken, well, we're past the 18 months, are we not?
Yes, ma'am.
This has taken an incredibly long time, and I don't really know how to push them. I don't know if loss of business would push them or what. I want to work with them as fast as possible through this review, but it doesn't seem like that they are in any really big hurry to do anything that means spending that dollar. So again, Mayor, I do appreciate your pushing along. I don't know what else can be done, but it's an embarrassment to me when I go by there and look at that building, to know that this is sitting back here, out of the way, and almost forgotten. And I encourage anybody that's out in the audience that's listening to us, go by there, drive by there, and call Cliff and get the telephone number for their corporate officer, and let them know what you feel.
And I'd encourage you to go by there and stop in and go in and see some of the folks. They need visitors, and
Yes, they do.
it is a good,
And I didn't.
there are a lot of needs there, and we can help them, and we are trying to build a better partnership there. Sometimes we're the ones pushing, and it's moving slowly but surely. So I do think we will see some improvements on the exterior. They do have a new roof, so we're not leaking on the inside. And I'll remind you that we are the owners, so it's our building. So that is part of the reason that we are pushing as hard as we are, because it does reflect on the town as well as Colony Ridge.
It would have been nice if we could have done all the repairs and they pay us. It would have been finished 18 months ago.
Or I would have been.
Anything else, ma'am? Oh, this was me. I'm sorry.
That was you.
That was me.
I was just commenting on your comments.
Oh, let's see, our next item is number 3 under new business. It's consideration of a memorandum of agreement with the Board of Education for a school resource officer for Nags Head Elementary School.
Thank you, Mayor. This agreement is really here for your discussion, for your input, guidance, and we can make changes and edits. This agreement was written, put together by John Leidy, Town Attorney. It is in the hands of the Board of Education for them to process and vet. But the main thing that we were looking for is to have the understanding in place so that the expectations are set out. This is a little bit different than other arrangements that in some of the middle schools and high schools because it is a county deputy sheriff. We wanted to spell out clearly that this position would be under the direction of the Nags Head Police Chief, and to set out the guidelines, the expectations, and to just make it clear the understanding going into this, what this position will be responsible for and who it will be accountable to. So I just kind of open it up. It's not something that you have to approve or sign today, because we do have some time, but I wanted to go ahead and get this before you for your discussion.
Questions or comments for Cliff?
Just a question. I believe during the budget process, we said it would start in January. Is that correct?
That's probably the earliest.
Well, I'm just confused because it references August 13th, and
Yeah, that,
it doesn't make, those two things don't
we
agree
would
with
have
each
to
other.
change that to the,
I just want to make sure it's correct.
right. The day that they can start, we'll have that in there.
Okay, it's Susie, go ahead. I was just going to ask, have you had any feedback from Chairman Ben
No.
Sproul or?
No, except that only the thankful, positive response. They've got it. They've acknowledged they have it, and they're going through I guess their attorneys to get his eyes on it or her eyes on it. But more than anything, what we're hearing is appreciation to the town for doing this.
Other questions or comments?
I do. Going back to Renee's question, Cliff, are they assuming that we'll start with this school year?
No, ma'am. The understanding is, as with all the positions, that you can't start until you find out whether or not you get the grant. And so that's probably late September or October. It's on the federal budget calendar. So then it takes time to get the person and get them acclimated, get them trained, and get them. We'll probably assign one of our present officers. We wouldn't put somebody in there brand new. So they'll be, more than likely they'll already be on board. But it's clear it's not. We'll continue to do what we've done as we can do. Have a presence there in the morning, have a presence there in the afternoon, and walkthroughs when available. But no, it's clear that they can't start until that grant is awarded.
And that grant is awarded, when did you say?
Late September.
Yeah, okay.
Is that still the timeline we're looking at, Chief?
Okay.
Hopefully federal government may get a budget adopted quicker than the state government. I don't know.
Have we made any contingencies for not receiving that grant?
Well, the position's fully funded,
Okay.
so it's budgeted.
So why wouldn't we start August 13th then?
Well, why wouldn't we? Well, if you won't get the grant.
It usually starts October 1st if it's a federal grant.
If you go ahead and fund it, you do not qualify for the grant.
Gotcha.
If you go ahead, it has to be a new position. It can't be an existing position. So if you go ahead and do it, you might as well kiss the grant goodbye because you don't meet the qualifications anymore.
Correct.
Good reason.
Okay.
We'll make sure that start date is correct, and then I can bring this back to you if there are any changes if there are any changes that you want to accept from the Board of Education.
You're probably just going to have to leave the start date blank.
That's right.
Wouldn't you think?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, this start date really just says that's when school starts, right?
Yeah.
I think there's
But
some.
you don't want any misunderstandings.
Yeah, you don't want the
Right.
assumption
Assumptions.
that he's going to start when school starts.
So do y'all want to rework this and bring it back?
That, right. And hopefully, when we do bring it back, it'll be after the Board of Ed's stamped it.
Does that suit everybody?
Yeah, that's good.
Okay. Mr. Gallup?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First, I wanted to thank the fire department yesterday for coming to our office and keeping us from burning the place down. Thank you, Chief Stork, and I believe it's Captain Elko and Mark Edwards, who I know were going through the building along with about 8 other firemen and 4 or 5 fire trucks and all sorts of fun stuff. We had a little smoke event that ended up not being too bad, a little HVAC problem, but they were very prompt and very helpful, and wanted to thank them for coming, get them to, check the place out for us.
There's too many documents in that building we've paid for that we didn't want to burn down.
Well, we were looking for the fire so that we could push that cabinet in that direction. But that was the real target for getting the fire folks there, so that we could find the exact place into which to push the stuff. But we do want to thank y'all for coming out yesterday. It was a very hot day, and they had to put all their gear on and wander around in our building and in our attic and under our crawl space to try and figure out what was going on. And I was just in a suit or without a jacket and was hot and sweaty myself, so I know that they were all very uncomfortable. So thank you for coming out and helping us out. And otherwise, Mr. Mayor, I do want to request a closed session for attorney-client privilege related to the Cherry Inc. case.
Yes, sir. Now, we're going to call a 5-minute recess. We're going to call our meeting back to order. Our next item is number K1. It's consideration of a Town of Nags Head, NC Department of Transportation, and Saga Moongate Subdivision Encroachment Agreement. Mr. Ryan?
Good morning, Mayor and the Board. This agenda item K1 is for consideration of agreements related to the proposed NC-12 drainage improvements adjacent to the Moongate subdivision. At the March 6th Board of Commissioners meeting, the Board passed a motion to amend the Village at Nags Head stormwater plan with the drainage improvements adjacent to the Moongate subdivision. The approval was conditional upon subsequent approval being issued from DOT, which was denied after that because there are concerns of the installation of perforated pipe within their right-of-way margins. At the May 15th, 2013 Board of Commissioners meeting, the Board requested staff to bring back a draft maintenance agreement and an encroachment agreement for the Moongate subdivision for review and consideration. In order for that encroachment agreement to proceed forward, NCDOT would have to approve the applicant's proposal with the town accepting maintenance of that proposed system. Subsequent meetings were held with Malcolm Fearing and Jerry Jennings from DOT, which resulted in verbal acceptance of these proposed improvements. With the town board approval, a formal tri-party encroachment agreement will be submitted to NCDOT between Moongate Partners LLC, the town, and the North Carolina Department of Transportation. As what's shown up there is the revised plan, which show minor modifications to the drainage improvements. And these are based upon NCDOT comments that have been received after the March 6th meeting to go ahead and address the pipe material and also some minor modification as far as the location of these improvements to ensure that they met minimum state regulatory setbacks. So before you is a tri-party agreement, which the motion would be to approve drainage maintenance of these proposed drainage system improvements, along with the maintenance responsibility for these at the specified location, and for staff to proceed with the execution of a tri-party agreement with NCDOT and Moongate Partners, LLC, along with a condition for as-built construction documents to be prepared that describe the post-installation conditions. And I'll be here to answer any technical questions that you have regarding this agreement.
Any technical questions?
No, but thanks for the offer. Move to adopt.
I
sorry.
have one comment about the,
We've got a motion on the floor. You want to second and then do it in further discussion? Or,
I'll withdraw it.
okay.
I read are we talking about the entire agreement or just one? There's an encroachment agreement with DOT, and then there's a town agreement in here as well.
This is for part one only. This is going to be considered in two separate parts.
Okay.
So this is the DOT encroachment agreement.
That's correct.
Okay. Just want a clarification. Okay. Commissioner, if you make your motion, I'll
Move
second.
to adopt the DOT encroachment agreement.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Is there a further discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, like sign. And the next one.
Okay. Part two is to go ahead and, for consideration of a draft maintenance and access agreement, since the town is now accepting responsibility of these improvements, it would be to basically outline what the expectations are of the affected parties by these additional maintenance responsibilities. So basically what we're doing is outlining terms and conditions and restrictions within this utility and drainage easement for where these improvements are being proposed. A draft agreement is attached here too and can be executed individually or can be reflected within the restrictive covenant within this portion of this subdivision. In your packet, there is email correspondence between the parties who are beneficiary to this easement, to include Carolina Water Service, to include the Village at Nags Head Property Owners Association, and also the developer, outlining what the expectations and the terms and conditions of any proposed improvements within this easement. Any such agreement would have to allow for removal of, for the installation of pool fences, and also any potential removal of these pool fences should maintenance activities be performed for these proposed drainage improvements that were approved as part of part one. So the motion for this part two of this agenda item is to approve the draft maintenance agreement as presented in your packet with the appropriate parties, and that in this case would be the lot owners of lots 1 through 7, which this is lot 1 going down through lot 7. That basically outline what the expectations of the parties are, primarily the town and these property owners.
Yes, ma'am.
I have two concerns. One is that nowhere in this agreement does it address the commitment we have to the Village at Nags Head about incorporating their comments. I think item J should be modified because that specifically deals with the pool fencing, that there be no gates or openings into the pool fence. We have a letter from the Homeowners Association requesting that there be no, that the fences be contiguous and that there be no gates in it. And I think item J should be modified to reflect that from the village homeowners. And the other thing is, I don't think we should be dealing with individual lots. I think we should be dealing with the covenants as, or with the entire subdivision with this, not individually. Not individual lots.
Right, and the way that it's been crafted so it can be done either or both ways. So there's a couple additional things that I would like to go ahead and point out that might provide some clarification. Basically, the majority of the terms and conditions that go along with this agreement are on pages 2 and 3, which are items 1 through 5 on these pages. And basically in its current form, it addresses those drainage improvements within the 25-foot drainage and utility easement. This is all a result of the town now becoming a primary beneficiary of this easement based upon the approval of Part 1. In this agreement, especially within item number 5, it recognizes that there are other parties involved and that this agreement does not approve conditions of either the Carolina Water Service or the Village Property Owners Association, that there may be separate approvals that need to be acquired through those organizations because there's a separate set of conditions that they have specific to any improvements within this easement. So we tried to recognize that without trying to administer them.
I would just like to see us reflect either in item J or item 2 that there be no, again, reiterate that because I've seen too many bait and switches come forward already with the subdivision of them approving things at the village level and what we get at the town level are not the same things. So I just prefer us to be proactive rather than reactive and that we do it correctly from day one and not have to deal with this further down the road.
Would adding an item to number 2, which is labeled pool fencing, something that says no gates on the rear or east side of the fence, is that
That'll
addressed?
work either with J or with 2. There's 2 places. You can either do it in J or 2.
There's J, I'm sorry, I didn't
J
see
is
that.
up above 2. J actually talks about installed pool fencing with a portion to be located in the easement area. And all you've got to do is add, such fencing shall not include any gates on the east side.
Or doors, because their
Gates or
letter
doors.
both says.
Gates and
yeah,
doors.
Gates
Yes.
and doors. But there's also a few more things in their letter. I didn't know.
Well, I don't think we can get into the landscaping because that's their requirement.
Yeah.
But I think since we are talking about allowing the fence to be moved into the, because it doesn't have, we don't have to adopt this. We don't have to let them be moved into the encroachment area.
In review of the master covenants for the Village Property Owners Association, I think it specifically spells out the height of the fencing and what can be done with fencing in their master covenants. So when we crafted this, we didn't want to duplicate efforts in order to go ahead and reflect that. We can amend this to reflect that specific language if that is the board's preference.
That's going to be my motion. And the reason I say that is I've already driven by and I've seen 2 gates already in the fence. So we can't say that, sorry, David, but I think we need to take action with this because I've already seen the example of what happens with that fence already.
Commissioner Walters?
I think Ben wanted to, did you want to add something?
I just wanted to mention that I think the 2 rather than J, in the actual obligations section would probably be the better, or both. J is really describing the facts, the situation, whereas the 2 below in the acknowledgement of agreements is more the direction, this is how it'll be done. So I would suggest either putting it in both or 2 at a minimum, number 2 under the now therefore section.
Then what, would you like to give me the language or would you like for me to make up my own language?
Depends on what your language is. It might be better than mine. I would add just a second sentence that says there shall be no gates located in the eastern or rear portion of the pool fencing.
Gates or doors? How's
Gates
that?
or doors.
Thank you.
Gates, doors, or openings in the
Contiguous.
eastern or rear pool fencing.
That works
And
for
if,
me.
I mean, do you have any issue? Well, it's really, that's probably going to be the only part that's in the easement area, but if you wanted to, it's an agreement where they could agree to not put them somewhere else too, if that was an issue.
The other concern I think that has been expressed about this is making sure that we were not assuming responsibilities for stormwater drainage improvements that are not in this easement. And I think this addresses that, I believe. We are just taking care of the things that are in the easement, not the things that would be in somebody's yard.
Correct. Yes, it's very specific to this drainage and utility easement.
Roberta, did you get the language on that?
Yes, I can't, this is a,
PDF? Can't change this one, huh?
no.
And I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Are we going to require the owners of those lots to sign as well? Or are we just going to do this with Moongate Partners?
I think your simplest way would be to do it with Moongate Partners. They can sign, should be able to sign for all of them, I would think.
And then it goes into the covenants, or it goes into actually it would go in as a deed restriction,
I was going to say, it should follow the,
Yeah, follow the land.
yeah.
It wouldn't really be logical to have the individual owner sign it anyway.
Because
Individual
they
owner
can
signs it and sells it, and then the next owner's gonna come along.
Well, since some of it's already been sold, how do you deal with it with Moongate Partners?
Do you have any suggestions?
This is beyond anything I'd thought about coming here. I didn't recognize that we had any potential for putting this in the declaration or in the covenants. But this is an easement, so it would be recorded just like the covenants, but it would be individual to the lots, the way it's prepared and presented. To put it in the declaration would probably require some changes, and it may be possible, but I want to be cautious that any motions that are made don't pick particular parties, because it's going to depend on who the declarant or the developer is. And I'm not sure exactly who that is at this point. There are a number of different parties involved in ownership. So I would suggest either approving it as a proposal with the easement and going to each individual property owner, which I don't believe there's a real issue there. I think all the property owners have pretty much said that they're fine with this. And it would be just as powerful or potentially better than the restrictive covenants, because it's going to be recorded just as well for each lot, and it'll be in the chain of title. It's not going to matter if somebody sells it, the easement will still be there. It's going to show up in their chain of title. So I think either way is fine, but I think that there will have to be some more thought process by Mr. Hobbs for this to go into a declaration and be part of the covenants.
Sir.
I'm here for the village property.
John, if you'll come to the podium.
And hopefully I can get some of this.
Mayor, I did have some questions on what he just
I'll
said,
wait.
so I.
Yes, ma'am, please.
Do you
Go
want,
ahead.
I'll wait.
John, wait for us just a minute.
If, and I agree with you that I feel that each property owner should probably sign off on this, but what would happen if someone decided not to? Where does that leave us?
If someone decided not to, then
One of the owners?
I mean, what you have to look at this is it's giving them more than it's taking from them. It's giving them this part about putting a fence in. The law is probably going to support, since you have an easement, to remove the fence if you had to maintain your drainage easement anyway. This is just clarifying that for everyone. So I think that if someone decides not to do it, you're probably going to be, it's probably going to be their loss more than it will be yours. But this agreement is beneficial in that it does explain and give everybody something to look at quickly to see where their rights and obligations are. But generally, if you have an easement for utilities and the property owner has granted you that easement and then goes and puts improvements in the easement, your utility easement is, maintaining it will trump their property improvements. So I don't think that there's a huge problem to the town if an individual didn't do it, although from a practical perspective, I think it sounds like everybody's on board and planning to do it because it really gives them the benefit because they know that they can put their pool fence out there and their improvements and know how it will be dealt with in the future.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
Commissioner Welch?
A couple words caused me a little bit of concern, generally and probably.
I know.
So does this need some more work before we take a vote on this?
Yeah.
I don't think it needs any more. Mr. Hobbs has looked at it very carefully with what is proposed to go to each individual lot owner with any other changes, minor changes like
The pool
Commissioner
fencing.
Cahoon's change. If that's the way you want to go, I think this is a proposal that is ready to go. If you want to consider or make this more related to restrictive covenants and not go this individual easement route, I think that would require more consideration unless Mr. Ryan and Mr. Hobbs have talked about that, and I don't know about it.
Well, may I?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I've just got a follow-up question there. Is it better to have it for proper legal notice purposes? Are you better off being in the restrictive covenants, or are you better off being on the deed and the chain of title?
You're going to be in the chain of title either way. I mean, that's the whole purpose. It's
People don't tend to read restrictive covenants as well as they do the deed.
No, they don't.
I mean, I don't know that there's a preference either way from a notice perspective, but if you're added to the covenants, that there's also the perspective of there's a lot more information there, and it may defeat the purpose of what you're really trying to do is define what's going on between these two parties about this situation and have one document to go look at, whereas having it as an easement like this may be more beneficial in that regard.
Sir?
I'm John Ratzenberger. I am representing I'm here at the orders of the president of the Village of Nags Head Property Owners Association, who happens to be my wife. And I'm also representing the Architectural Control Committee chair. I am a member of the Architectural Control Committee, and Moongate has been on our agenda for some time now. Commissioner Cahoon is referring to, in her requirement or comment about gates and things like this, referring to a letter that we wrote on the 21st of January to the town as a result of the initial plan that came in that showed the fences moved before there was any permission, showed fences up there with everything before there was any permission. And we wrote a letter giving a position at that time because, in fact, we weren't being consulted real well, not by the town. And since then, we've had this come up. Now, let me just state that the village architecture, we defer to the town engineer on anything technical. We have no capability, so ours is more of an aesthetic thing that is, by the way, mandated by the whole village special district, that we have an architectural control committee to control all of this stuff. I think our big concern, and why there was a little flurry of email a couple days ago, is that in the email stream, I believe it's the first email stream, or maybe it's the second stream in y'all's packet. There's a lot of email from Saga Construction and other people that suggest that they're going to start moving fences the minute y'all approve this, and that is not true. What we really want out of this, and it may or may not be explicitly stated in your MOA, I think it could be strengthened up, that they can't do anything without coming through us for approval of it. The issue of these fences is a little difficult for us because as they originally built, right now they're pool fences. As they were originally proposed, they divided property lines, which is not allowed in the village. So when they put them in as pool fences, we kind of let the gates go by, and in fact, we've even commented on the committee, we're not sure we care in the present case where the gates are. What we would need, I believe, is an understanding of all parties that if they're going to do anything, they have to come back through us first for the permission. And we will work through their distinct proposal to see how that fits within the rules that we go by, which is what we call the Amendment 5 and restatement of the architectural declarations for the Village of Nags Head, the effective 17 July 2012. In the packet should be, they're recorded in the deed, they're in the packets, this and that. So the owners, I wish Mr. Catoulis had stayed, so to see if he could nod his head and say, yeah, he'd read that or not. But, so I'm not sure, I guess my comment is, I'm not sure that it's a benefit to any of us to actually now in your MOA and code or whatever, wire in the gates and things unless that's a distinct desire. We need to fit this within the village, and whether or not there are gates or anything really needs to be based on what is the final plan brought back to us by Saga Construction. So I don't know if that helps any there or not. I'm willing to entertain any questions about standards and this and that. And I appreciate Commissioner Cahoon's comments in there, but we like to, we put, a little historical thing, we put a tremendous amount of effort into Amendment 5 to make it more friendly, workable, usable, to accommodate changes and things going on. And the Moongate property thing, if they submit the required stuff to us in the required time for us to review, we will work through it. And there is a big conflict here between property fence and pool fence that we're going to have to work through because the net of it will impact the entire village. And much as it happens when you all get a text amendment for one thing that could in fact help do the whole town.
And I think we appreciate the work of the village committees to try and keep things looking nice. I think they've got their job and their enforcement policies, and we've got ours. I believe there is some sentiment there to prohibit gates in the back, not just for aesthetic purposes, but really to prevent parking out back there.
Well, we need to consider what that is, and there is some sentiment. Like I said, we've talked about it, and we haven't done anything with the current fences because we know there's a change coming up. But we do have, and I'm not speaking for anything that comes out of the committee because we will have to review this, we have a strong sentiment for contiguous uniform fencing. We are nervous about the some of the safety aspects and some of the other things of the gates. But we need to consider that, and the landscaping is important, but we need to consider it as a package, and that entire development, our opinion, has to be uniform from that thing. And there's already things that aren't uniform, and we're going to have to deal with that. But it's...
And that's their things, not ours. And that's your stuff to deal with, not ours.
Basically, yes, ma'am. It is our problem to deal with. The engineering of it is fine. Your agreement to rip up and out fences is fine. The Moongate Community LLC, and we're never, they need a POA that needs to be signed up. I mean, one of the things we'll be hard on, and we have already, is that they show that they have a way to maintain what they're doing. It's come up before, and they established a small POA to maintain their Moongate sign. Initially, I think there was some reluctance to even have a POA within Moongate. But
and John, I think they've got notice that they need to come back before y'all, and I believe you will,
right.
You will see them
so
back.
I think,
and you've got your enforcement procedures to go through if they
right.
don't. So
I mean, it is. I mean, I really kind of hate to see y'all go through rewriting this one. We may decide that for the sake of something, we may change something, or we may not, or whatever. So, and I hope I wasn't trying to undercut you at all, Commissioner, on that.
Thank you.
No, that's y'all's prerogative. I think we're going to need to deal with what we've got here, and I appreciate your thoughts on it. I know you will see them back before you.
I have one more question. Ben?
I had an email from Mr. Hobbs that he wanted to make sure. I think what I was saying earlier was that I think all the owners are on board, but this document has not been reviewed by anybody contrary to us. They're, the attorneys for the other side. So he wanted to make sure that any resolution that was adopted related to these easements included the authority for the attorneys to negotiate non-substantive changes with opposing parties and council. So I wanted to make sure that that was understood, that we had raised that before someone made a motion.
I'm willing to make a motion that we adopt this agreement with the change in item 2. And since Roberta can't show it, I'm going to say that the second sentence in item 2 is, there shall be no gates, doors, or openings in fence located in easement.
Very well. We have a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
I'll second for the sake of discussion.
Further discussion?
I really have some heartburn over this legality thing. I think that I am not comfortable unless all of the owners sign on to this. I'm not comfortable unless all the owners sign on to this. And as far as what Mr. Ratzenberger said about all of the other things with the village, as he well knows, the town does not enforce restrictive covenants. So whatever their decisions are, that pertains to them and their enforcement. But I agree that the fencing issue should be, as Renee has included. But there is something else that I brought up to Cliff several days ago. And it keeps referring to the developer and the owners and on and on and on, and I know this is an easement, but, I look at this and say to myself, where does the town get hung out to dry eventually, after all of us are off the board? We all know that developers finish a development and move on, or move out, or move away, or whatever. So my question to Cliff was, what responsibility does it, financial and maintenance-wise, what changes when the developer has sold everything? And David, this is really not a question to you, because probably this is not an engineering question. But I'd like for Cliff just to let the board know what our discussion was, and to see if the board is comfortable with the final answer that I think you came up with.
Well, once Saga has put the ditch in, or piped in the ditch along the beach road, they're out of it. They've done their construction part, and that maintenance is totally ours. When it comes to when all these lots are sold, and the owners will be responsible for the maintenance, and the owners to come will be responsible for the maintenance of whatever improvements that are placed into that encroachment area. Now, if the town has to come in, if Carolina Water has to come in and affect any of those, then it's going to be the owner's responsibility for replacement.
Okay? And that is why I am uncomfortable as it stands with, I need, for me leaving the town in good shape with this project for the future, I need to see the owners sign and become a part of this agreement.
Right. I think the confusing thing is with this agreement, the way that it's currently worded on page 1 is between Moongate Partners LLC and the town, when actually it's going to be between the individual property owners and the town. And I think that's the confusing part of all this. So.
And if the owners, and it is between the owners and the town, once the project is completed. But I don't see the owners signing on as we have it here, and I am not.
Actually, page 7 of this agreement has a spot for the signatures of the lot owners and notaries.
But
And the notary certificates.
But is it mandatory?
But I think I may be able to shed some of the agreement in the beginning. What it is it's an agreement between Moongate and the town, the two entities that are dealing with the easement that have been given the encroachment agreement from the DOT, and the owners on the other side. So, and it's more of an agreement between everybody. The owners are not listed because this is a template, because we haven't filled in each owner's names. And there's an empty page at the very end to fill in each owner's names. That would allow it to either break down. You could do it with each individual owner. You could do it with everybody trying to sign on one document. There are different complexities to each one. But I think what Commissioner Sadler is getting at is she's not sure that she wants to grant any easements or have any agreement with anybody unless everybody's on board. And that is a condition precedent that we could add to the agreement that made it so that this agreement is not applicable to anybody until everybody signs. That's one way to do that. If that's what I'm hearing, if that's what somebody wanted, the agreement could be modified to do that. Currently, it wouldn't be. It would be whoever is listed as owners in the blanks at the top and who has the signature pages at the bottom. And if you got 6 lots and didn't get the 7th, then you wouldn't have the agreement with that 7th lot. But if someone wanted, if it was the pleasure of the board to modify the agreement to have a condition precedent that everybody had to sign before it was applicable to anybody, then I think Mr. Hobbs could probably do that.
Well, that's just, I mean, I am uncomfortable leaving in the future the town any problems that I can forestall right now.
What's the practical effect of somebody not signing on this? Does it change the rights that we've got to go into that easement and maintain it?
If they're any different than what's actually spelled out, yes, but it falls back to what your legal rights would be normally. And I agree with Commissioner Walters that I don't really like generally or typically either, but that's the only answer I can give you without details on what actually happens. But generally, when there's a utility easement, the utility provider has the authority to go in and maintain that easement underneath the improvements of someone else, and the improvements are replaced. The other person replaces their own improvements. When that's how it works for the power company typically, or how it works for the DOT. You end up replacing your own driveway cuts and things like that when they replace a pipe. But this agreement spells it out. It's easier. Everybody can look at it and see it. It's right there. Whereas in the other case, there might be discussions about having to figure out, well, this is what the law says, this is what it doesn't say.
My concern is if we delay, and I'm debating that till it gets presented correctly with the changes that we need, is the ramifications of what we just adopted if we don't adopt this one today.
What if we gave instruction to the attorney to add the piece about everybody has to sign it, or it's not good for anybody? So that's a huge incentive for everybody to sign it, and authorize the manager or the attorney to make those changes and sign that agreement. So that lays out what we expect. And then they can sign it or not sign it, but if they don't get everybody to sign it, they don't have a deal.
And what happens to the encroachment agreement we just all adopted if this one just flies in the wind?
It would mean, my understanding is it would mean that they couldn't extend those fences that they seem like they very much want to do, but it wouldn't affect our maintenance of the drainage.
No, the first one wouldn't change.
It wouldn't change at all.
If that's the question.
No, that wasn't the question. The question was, if we don't adopt this, does that preclude the fences from being in the encroachment?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Yes.
I'm willing to entertain that amendment, Mayor.
I will make that as an amendment. The second, who was the second, sorry?
I think
Sir?
Doug did.
Is that okay with you, sir?
Yeah. I think there's a lot of questions still about what we're doing here, so, but.
I don't think it's presented in a very good, I don't think this thing is thorough at all. We do have a mid-month meeting.
If y'all would prefer, we can.
You know, maybe
certainly
we
do
should
that.
table this. I mean, is there an issue of speed on how quick? I mean, does this need to be done like now?
I can answer that maybe better than Mr. Ryan can. There is some issue of urgency. They had to wait quite a while for DOT and to get that drainage agreement the way they wanted it, and really the way we want it. So they've been waiting several months for a while
DOT
anyway.
is a completely different issue as far as I'm concerned.
No, I understand.
You know, I mean, the DOT has done absolutely very little to help us, you know, in all the issues recently we've had, so. I mean, this is just, and the reason why DOT is playing, with washing their hands of this is because it's the village.
If my seconder will withdraw, I'll withdraw my motion and I
I
would say
withdraw
bring
my
it back. I withdraw it and I bring it back at mid-month, corrected and changed.
May I make a comment before we?
Please.
And while this is minor, I'm just going to put it out there for discussion. Your amendment to change the pool fencing section to make it, I think you said no gates, doors, or openings. And while it is not our responsibility, it is that of the Architectural Review Board. Is it important to use the word, I mean, no gates, doors, or openings means contiguous, but is the word uniform important to have in there? Or is it really not our problem and just that of the village? Uniform fencing. I mean, I understand why they don't want, you know, the chain link fence here and the wood fence here and you know what I'm saying.
I think that part of the aesthetics is probably more the village's
Okay.
purview, but
Just
that's
asking.
an opinion. It's not.
If it was,
Did you put the word uniform in there?
I did not. Sorry.
You know, I'm also, it was a good question. What about the future maintenance and the removal of fence to do any maintenance? What is the easiest to work with? I mean, one long chain link fence is not, I mean, should it be uniform and a specified type fence? I mean, just uniform or not uniform?
I don't think it.
You don't think it matters for
That's
maintenance?
more of architecture.
Probably ask Ralph.
they could
No.
take a section out.
There's of course easier, but it needs to adhere to the village.
It has to adhere to
Standard.
architecture.
As
I
it,
don't think
as
it's
it
gonna
stands
change.
right now,
We can
the
tear
drainage
anything up.
pipe is going to be installed 17 feet away from the proposed fence, from the most recent fence proposal. More than likely, the town is not going to be required to remove that fence in order to perform any maintenance. With these underground pipes, the manufacturers indicate that they can last 50-plus years. So this is just to cover the what-ifs, all those scenarios that could happen, but just to clarify to the parties what their responsibilities are. More than likely, this may never happen.
Ben?
But you never know.
Commissioner, is the only correction you want or change that you want, the change related to the gates, or is there some other correction or change you need to?
It was the addition of the second sentence in item 2 and the comment,
About,
the change that the mayor had proposed.
about a condition, making it so that everybody has
Everybody has
to
to
sign,
sign
or
or it's
there's
not
no
valid.
agreement.
Right.
Okay. And those are the only, I mean, you said corrections and change, and I want to make sure that we know what you want to change, and we can certainly do it the way it's been done or that way, but if it's the board's pleasure to do it that way, we can certainly try and draft that as well. So that's what I'm getting, it's the board's pleasure to add the condition precedent language and the gate language, and nothing else.
Any other changes or corrections that we'd like to see in the agreement?
No, I think we've already made a mountain out of a molehill.
Thank you.
So I hear a motion withdrawn, a second withdrawn, amendment withdrawn, and perhaps a motion to table this until the next meeting? I'll make that motion, I guess.
She already made the motion.
To
You
table?
made that motion.
Bring it back at the next meeting.
Okay.
That was the only way I withdrew it,
Got it.
was to bring it
So,
back.
formal motion to table it until the next meeting. Second, further discussion. All those in favor signify by oh,
Trying to see if there's any way we can do this without having to table it at this time.
We've got about 5
We'd
minutes
really
for
like
them
to
to do. Let's move.
keep this thing rolling, and Although practically, we've got to go in and construct this drainage structure, and it's going to take a few weeks. It'd really be nice if we could just kind of get some sort of tentative approval at this point, bring everything back, and keep it rolling.
I don't hear that being the will of the board, though,
Okay.
unfortunately. I'm sorry.
Doesn't have anything to do with the drainage.
Yeah, this is strictly
Understood.
fences. This is
Understood.
strictly fences.
Right.
Sorry, I'm going to call the question. All those in favor of the motion to table, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, like sign. Motion passes unanimously. We'll hear it with y'all's corrections to it at our next meeting, July 17th.
Okay. All right.
But this does not delay the...
This deals only with the fence part of it.
Right.
It doesn't deal with the
This
drainage
does
part
not delay
of it.
anything to do with the drainage ditch. Okay. Just so that we're all on the same page.
Thank you, ma'am. Item K2, consideration of a request for water consumption unit refunds.
Thank you, Mayor. The request is coming forward to you from Mr. Bobby Harrell on behalf of Sunnyside Elevators. Back in 1999, there was a purchase of property that's listed here, that's on the map in front of you. It's 3rd Division Village Commercial Subdivision, lots 2, 6, 7, 8, and 9. It's since been subdivided from commercial. There are still some commercial lots there, but there are also many residential lots there. The agreement conveys 37, at no additional cost, 37 WCUs with the sale of the land. We have the documentation that shows that 16 of those have been transferred, 21 remain. There is one piece of property, there's 2 lots, there's, I think this map shows this lot is being, 3 lots being empty. There's houses since this GIS was updated. A WCU has been transferred to this vacant lot, but this is the only lot remaining that's not been developed. The ordinance states in Town Code Section 44-165 that prepaid water consumption units will not be transferable from one piece of property to another. Water consumption units are tied to a particular site rather than to the party making prepayment. So those 37 were assigned to this site. There's 16 left out of that 37, or excuse me, 21 left that the requester is asserting that won't be used or need to be used. It also states that the town may refund prepayment of unused water impact fees if surplus funds become available for such a purpose. Presently, there are 93 remaining WCUs at $189,000 that the town is holding on the book. So we would reduce that 93 to 72. So there are funds available. There's one other thing I wanted to.
Those water fund dollars?
Yes.
Cliff? Okay.
Yes. And that, the prepayment going back, there was something like close to $2 million in prepayment of water impact fees by Ammons Dare, if I'm not mistaken. They were at $2,000 at that time. They are valued at $3,000 now, but the town allowed those prepayments knowing that eventually they'd be used, so it was at a break for the developer. So the money, it's available. You can, I mean, it's your discretion as to whether or not you feel these need to be refunded. Oh, back in 2005, I think, the board at that time was trying to, or had a desire to get the WCUs that we're holding on our books to remove those from the books. And there was a public notice that was sent stating that. At that time, there were 130 WCUs still available that had not been, that we were trying to get off the books. Now, like I said, we're down to 93 minus these 21. All of the documentation has been provided by Mr. Harrell that was asked for in that. But but there was concern by the board at that time that, that if there was no real assurance, or at least at a comfort for the board at that time, to know who might lay claim to these WCUs. So it was tabled and no action was taken, but I don't recall, or I don't recall in looking through all the minutes and through the files that anyone made a claim at that time. And I asked Mr. Harrell if he remembers this, and he did not, and didn't make a claim at that time.
See, I didn't read the rest of that, I just saw that picture.
Ben, you've reviewed this, I assume. Is there an obligation on the town's part to repay these units?
I'm not exceptionally familiar with this. I'm familiar with what's in the packet, and the way it's worded, it does not seem to be an obligation. But it does say that the town will try to do so in the future when it has sufficient funds. I've never dealt with any water compensation units before, so I'm not sure exactly what the questions would be related to that. I think it seems to be that if somebody makes the claim, that y'all have the authority under the ordinance to pay them back if they can show that they are entitled to the funds. But it doesn't have a particular time frame or any obligation to do so.
And my recollection is that we've reimbursed just one entity, and that was Ammons Dare, who paid these units initially. Looking at the contract on this, it says that seller will convey to buyer the seller's Intracoastal Holdings by separate bill of sale 6,038 gallons of sewage flow per day at a cost of $4 per gallon to be paid by the buyer at closing in an amount equal to $24,000. It says seller also agrees to provide buyer 37 water credit units at no additional charge to buyer.
I'm not sure what you're...
Yeah, me either.
Nothing was paid for the WCUs.
They didn't pay for them.
They didn't pay for them.
Well, I think that's the point, is they were paid for initially by Ammons Dare, and what these people are showing is that they are claimants under the title of Ammons Dare. As they've gone forward, they are not used, so they're effectively standing in the shoes of Ammons Dare for the rest of these units, and they want them back. They want to get refunded. If Ammons Dare had never transferred the lots out, then they would be the ones here asking you for the units. But as they transferred them out, what you're dealing with is someone trying to show you that that they have a claim because they are the subsidiary or the successor in interest of Ammons Dare. So Ammons Dare initially owned the land.
Right.
And did pay for 130 or so WCUs.
Actually, they paid for 1,000.
Okay, they paid for 1,000.
Right.
And when they paid for that, then they began to transfer lots out and parts of land, and those were tied to those WCUs. Well, if Ammons Dare had never transferred them out and they ended up now deserving that credit themselves, then they would be the ones here for you. But since they've transferred them, what you've got is someone coming before you who's trying to prove to you that they are in the direct line coming from Ammons Dare and that they're entitled to the WCU instead of someone else.
And those 37 were included, they were assigned to this, they go with the property, and I think Mr. Harold's answer to that would be they were purchased as part of the property, included as part of the purchase.
Does it matter that it clearly states in the contract that the seller also agrees to provide the 37 WCUs at no additional charge to the buyer? I could see where Ammons Dare was entitled to a refund because they actually paid for the water CUs, the WCUs, but this buyer paid nothing for the WCUs.
I read it to say the other way, that if they're saying we're not going to give you an addition, we're going to provide them at no additional charge,
Right.
that's the equivalent of we build it into the price.
Yeah, and for the sake of question, not argument, but questioning, the money from the WCUs went into a fund that sits right there. Is that not a fact? I think it's a simple evaluation. If we owe them the money, pay them. If we don't owe them, we don't need to pay them. I think it says that if they prove their ownership, and we owe them the money, pay them. I don't think it's an issue. I think, again, unless we specifically are losing out, you know, if we're losing something that's ours, then that's a different story. But, I mean, I was on the board along with Renee, and when all these WCU situation, when the water was a very, very strong issue. It's no longer a strong issue the way that it was. Other than the fact that, well, other than the fact that sewage is a different issue. But, you know, and I think that, once again, if we owe it to them, pay them. They've requested their money. They claim it's their money. The attorney seems to think that it's probably, you know, not out of line.
I guess my question is, do we owe it to them, and is there already an established precedent that this is the manner in which we refund WCUs? And I don't know that.
The only answer I have to that is the 2005 notice, that was the standard then, that the board will consider refunding you WCUs if you can meet this standard. And that's the standard that I'm going by today.
Meaning we should refund? Or no?
Right. That you're eligible for a refund if you can answer these questions. If you can provide this documentation, which they've done.
Well, then why did we say check claims and associated documentation are to be submitted by July 1st, 2005?
I want to hear, so I can't answer
That, at that time, the board was going to give that amount of time for consideration. That if you want to lay claim to a WCU, you've got until July 1st to do it.
And then it's over. Would that be similar to if I sold you an unimproved lot with a water connection on it? I sold it to you, and 10 years later, you have not built on that lot, and you found out it was unbuildable, so you're not going to build on it, that I can come to the town and ask for my $3,000 back that I paid? Or didn't that go with the land?
I think it might be more similar if you wanted to build a larger home and we wanted to charge you 2 WCUs, and you went ahead and did that, but then decided later to build a smaller home that only required 1. Would we give you back that extra WCU?
Even though I had sold the lot to somebody else?
No.
But could I, so that person could get that money back?
We had put so many restrictions on architectural design and other things just to get WCUs. You know, back in those days, I think that in the sale of this property, that, and said at no cost to the buyer, additional cost to the buyer was probably an incentive.
Yeah, I think that's one thing to consider, the fact that there are not very many remaining $2,000 WCUs out there. I don't think people are prepaying today at $3,000 because I don't think there's a fear that that's going to go up, a real fear that maybe there was in 1999. Development of the village was nowhere near what it is now. We know we're going to use these WCUs, so let's buy them. But in this case, they came short.
What's the pleasure of the board?
I think we ought to pay them.
I think the opportunity was there in 2005 for anyone who felt that they had legal rights to be reimbursed, and I quite frankly am surprised that the money is still in that line item. In my opinion, it should be transferred over to the water department.
It's in the water fund, but it's just earmarked.
It's earmarked,
Right.
though, right there.
Right.
It should no longer exist, in my opinion.
And that's a good question for the attorney, is I'm not sure how we write that I don't know how we write that asset off, because it's something.
That's just my opinion. You
Right.
might have 4 others. Let's don't get Ben to start charging us to write.
Well, I have a question, since some of these water tap fee applications are dated way past the date of the July letter. Does that matter?
No, I think the board could put that letter out at any point. that the board at that time decided to table it, not take any action or go any further with it. But you could go through that same process at any time until the remaining WCUs are no longer there.
I don't object to us considering this in the future, but I'd like to get the local government commission off our back with the water fund. And I don't think right now, I think we need to have a plan for dealing with it. But they keep demanding that we raise our water rates, and I'm not willing to do that right now and then give money away at the same time. So I think I'd like to see staff develop a plan on how to deal with this, not piecemeal it, a plan.
Well, I would like a legal opinion on whether or not we owe it to them. I mean, again, I don't want to end up in court over something, over something that we're not listening to, our legal advice as to whether or not we owe that. I mean, I'm not saying we do, I'm just saying that we need somebody to make a determination whether or not we owe these people. Not just say, I don't want to give them any money.
Well, are you saying that, it's certainly within our right to give it back or to not give it back? Are you saying we legally owe them this money? That's what I'm asking. Or would you rather?
I don't know. I cannot tell you today whether or not you owe the money from a legal perspective. I was going on the assumption that it, the process was spelled out. It was something that was already done. You can see where Mr. McCree was involved in the 2005 issue, and my expectation was that the process, that the idea that someone could come to you and be paid back was available, and I hadn't looked beyond that, but I'll be glad to do that if that's what the board wants me to do.
I would like to know legally, because I think what we do today is going to set a precedent for the future, so.
And there are other people out there that may come to us in the future
That's right.
with this same request, is the other
So either
piece of that.
we are and will, or we won't.
Right.
And I agree with you. That's a good question to be answered.
Wait for legal opinion before we decide on this.
So I hear consensus asking us to go back to the attorney and make sure we know exactly what we're obligated to and what we're not obligated to.
Right.
And I'm going to add, what's the potential for other people to come and ask us for this money as well? Because I think Ammons Dare is pretty much out of the picture. They've been dissolved and didn't respond to this 2005 request. So I don't know that they will be bringing anything back to us, but I don't know.
Does Ammons Dare, is there property over there that's listed to Ammons Dare? Case closed. As far as I'm concerned. Well, again, the legal ramifications of this thing need to be addressed.
But it would be the assigned. It's somebody that they had sold it to, and they sold them more than they needed, which I think is basically discounts. They
I
got more than
remember
they
the
needed.
thing. I remember the thing about the August. Nobody ever said from this point on we're not going to deal with it anymore. We just we did the same thing.
Okay. I hear board consensus to ask the attorney to get the legal piece of it down and come back to us with that information. Next item, consideration of amendment to Outer Banks Hauling Recycling Franchise Agreement.
Yes, sir. We're asking for you to amend the contract or the franchise agreement to include the mandatory recycling pilot project, as well as servicing our convenience sites located right now, presently, one in South Nags Head, one here at Town Hall, and one up at 8th Street. This would renew through September 1st, 2014, because it would go, we renewed the original franchise agreement for 3 years. That's set to expire September 1st, 2014. So that'll give us time to review our success of the pilot project and whether or not it was truly cost-effective to privatize the convenience sites. And this amendment was prepared by John Leidy.
Questions for Mr. Ogburn? Entertain a motion?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, like sign. Motion passes unanimously. Item number 4 is a request for a closed session to discuss the acquisition of real properties located at 204 West Lost Colony Drive and 2620 South Bridge Lane per General Statute 143-318.11A5. Board of Commissioners agenda. Commissioner Cahoon?
We heard a little bit of public comment, but while I am not a proponent of additional lighting at all, Little Bridge has created a problem since that replacement bridge was there, because you're heading from east to west, you're going up an incline, and then you've got that. And while I totally believe that DOT should install some flashing lights or a pedestrian activated light, I think one thing that might help in the short term are the installation of some street lights to give greater visibility there, because that's a pretty dark area. And I just think we need to be proactive again. I guess where it's too late, we're already being reactive, but I was made aware that somebody almost hit 4 pedestrians crossing the other night with little kids in dark clothes, and the fact that the only thing that kept them from hitting them was one of the children actually had on a pink shirt. So that kept another accident from occurring. So I would like to see us, perhaps staff, take a look at putting some additional street lights. We've done that down at Whalebone because those crosswalks are so dark. But I would like to see us.
Are there signs, forgive me for not knowing, are there signs that say pedestrian crosswalk ahead?
Not ahead. None of our things say
Right when you get to 'em.
It's right there when you get to them. At every single crosswalk, you're already at the crosswalk before you see the sign. There's nothing that warns you anywhere in town about upcoming crosswalks. In some places, the sign is actually on the other, in one case, the sign is actually on the other side of the crosswalk, not before you even get to the crosswalk. Down at Gray Eagle, the sign isn't even before you get to it that says yield to pedestrians. It's on the, already past the, but the Little Bridge thing is becoming more and more as we get more and more traffic. And I think we need to take a look at, number one, requesting DOT, Cliff, if you are hear what I'm, request DOT to maybe install some blinking lights or some sort of traffic control device. But in the meantime, us take a look at installing some street lights so people can see, because you are changing your incline. You're going up, and the people are down on the other end. Just like I think at some point we really need to address our bike path and lighting, low-level lighting on that, because in South Nags Head, it's pretty dark down there along that bike path, whereas there's so much vegetation. But Little Bridge is the real big thing to me. And it's based on a lot of people almost having near misses, and they're scared to death that they're going to hit somebody.
One additional suggestion on that, if they could sign it pedestrian walkway ahead, coming out, I feel like part of that is coming off of the bridge heading east. People pick up speed when they go downhill, and if we gave them some notice that there was a pedestrian walkway ahead, they might be more, it just creeps up on you really fast there, I think.
Well, you're...
Can I ask? Please. Can I ask the police chief to come up here?
I had hoped Buster would be here
Chief,
by now, 'cause he
I know you're aware of the problem. I can remember you as a patrolman years ago standing out there trying to slow traffic down on the causeway. I mean, I remember that because I was one of the ones coming the other way. What is your perspective on what would be your recommendation?
I've talked quite a bit about it with the manager, with the fire chief, and with Commissioner Cahoon. I believe.
I'm sorry. If you've already talked about it.
Well, no, but you're right. The area is it's a bad area. People heading west. There are no signs saying crosswalk approaching, much like the mayor just mentioned. There is an incline on the Little Bridge, and as you come up, the crosswalk is right there as you come off the bridge. So it doesn't give people an opportunity to stop or slow down. It gives them very little opportunity. The relief island, the refuge island that DOT has put in. When I became chief in 2009, I know it started well before then, we were asking for any help from DOT that we could get. Please help us make this area safer. I think the island, much maybe like Gary Oliver said, it looked good. I don't know what benefit it may give. It gives people, to me, maybe a false sense of security when they're there in the middle of the roadway in a 50-mile-an-hour speed limit zone. You got people coming off the Baum Bridge that's running 55 if they're going the speed limit, could be higher. I think some advance warning, Mayor Pro Tem, would certainly help. The fire chief and I were talking, a pedestrian activated flashing yellow light. Instead, if they don't want the yellow light flashing all the time, maybe even before they crossed, you hit the button where it activates a yellow light to warn motorists that someone is in the crosswalk and they're getting ready to cross. And I believe that the lighting in the area may help draw some attention to the people that are there as well. But I believe it's a bad area, and that bridge is used a lot.
In other words, we're waiting for another disaster to happen.
Say something.
And I will say though that, and I believe that, I think that it is waiting to happen. A search of our records for the previous 2 years did not show any accidents related to the crosswalk, but that's not to say that it's not coming. But.
Yeah, and I totally agree with Commissioner Cahoon, and we need to do everything in our power to try to avoid. And if an activated light is, I can remember we had to fight for the light at the school, and DOT just no way, we're not going to do it. And of course, a lot of people still complain about it, but it slows traffic down. And of course, the appearance of the police officers in there. But it also something there for traffic calming an area along an area where they cross over needs to be done. So I agree.
To help draw attention, we did the message board, the town's message board. I installed, put that up personally several days ago to help draw attention, to that area. With the configuration of the roadway, I was only able to do it obviously for eastbound traffic, but it gives people coming off that bridge a little bit advance notice that if you're not familiar, keep it in mind that there is a crosswalk ahead.
One of the things that occurs to me is perhaps, you said a pedestrian activated. There's a lot of places where there are blind corners and stop signs coming up where a car passing activates the stoplight. Is it possible perhaps to get a motion activated blinking light instead of a pedestrian activated, because people, depending on their ages, may or may not see it, but a motion activated, and perhaps DOT, and I've talked to the DOT rep about this, and he would like us to, make some suggestions to him about where to go. Perhaps a motion activated blinking light in that area that DOT could do.
What's up in Grandy? Is that a motion activated light right there at the Sonic where that road comes in?
It's right by the new McDonald's, and that's
Yeah.
I believe that's pedestrian. And then on the shortcut to Elizabeth City at Indian Town Road, that's a vehicle activated light that lets people know that.
Vehicle activated, but their motion, their vehicle, yeah, but something like that.
It was really, it's a big problem when both Commissioner Coon and I get public input on an issue, Kevin. And I don't know if you all read all of your paperwork as how this has been progressing, but I don't cross that bridge often, but I see the problem when it occurs. And then I had a fisherman who fishes over there every morning, 8 days a week, and has seen so many near misses that he felt it was important enough to call me to ask what the town can do. And you all will remember, many years ago, we asked for a caution light to be put on the bridge. This was the previous DOT representative, and we were turned down. After being contacted by this fellow on several occasions, then, and actually I was hoping Buster would be here today because he wanted to come and speak. He crosses that bridge every morning, comes back every afternoon, and he said he has seen so many near misses of people being killed. And it's the case of the railroad tie, the railroad crossing coming, being put up after the person or persons are no longer breathing. So there he is right now, speaking
He just walked in.
of Mr. Nuttymaker. Anyway, I went ahead after I talked to Buster and talked to the fisherman. I called Malcolm and I told him that we really are getting into an area here that is going to be a disaster area. So what he said was pretty much what you had said. I didn't realize you'd talked to him, that, you know, he needed suggestions, he needed people. So I had the people that had informed me of what they were looking at go ahead and send him emails. And really, as I see it in talking to a number of people, there are three solutions. You can put the caution lights up, both on the bridge coming this way as well as heading out of here, the caution lights, you know, there's a crossing ahead. Or you know, Jockey's Ridge has had that push button. It's a simple, I don't know how inexpensive, but it's a simple solution to getting across safely.
Yes, ma'am.
And that is, and I think that's what Gary Oliver was talking about this morning. How difficult is it to think that that might work? And the other thing, of course, is I think one of the high school students had this idea of the like that. That'll work, but that is really expensive. So there are solutions out there before somebody actually gets killed, whether it's in a rear end and I stop and others don't, and I just sit there waiting for it to happen. So this is under Renee's comments, but I would ask you if you would let Buster say what he has to say. It's up to the mayor. It's up to you.
No, Buster, certainly. We're talking about the little bridge.
Thank you for letting me come speak to you today. I think this is a very important issue that probably needs attention even today. Right now as we speak, there's a bad wreck on the causeway. Traffic's backed up all the way to the bridges. There's 6 police cars and 3 fire trucks and 2 ambulances and 2 wreckers sitting on the causeway right now, and that's one of the reasons I was delayed. But my concern about the little bridge has gone back for many years about the safety of the public crossing that area. And one of the concerns that I have is a statement that Jerry Jennings made recently in a local newspaper was, we made a bad situation better. I don't think that is the case. I think we've made a bad situation worse. And the reason I say that is because you have 50-mile-an-hour speed. You have people coming onto the bridge. There's no indication that there's a stop or anything on the west end of that bridge. Neither is there any indication except for what the town put up this week coming from the west. And the town of Manteo will tell you when you come off of the bridge coming into their town, some cars are doing 60 miles an hour or better. I travel that area every day except for on the weekends, and I may go over there once or twice, in a month. But I work in Manteo. I go there. I see things that happen there. I hear stories from coworkers, like Anna was talking about stopping and other people not stopping, and then the people that are actually entering into those walkways are expecting everybody to stop, and when they don't, it looks like a NASCAR wreck with cars going all over the place, and I've actually seen that too, and I don't know whether I'm not sure whether Jack's here or not, but I'm pretty sure he has seen that. This morning I counted 56 people on the bridge fishing this morning. There were 30 on the north side, which is the side that I'm most concerned about because they have to transgress and go across that area. I think there's some very simple solutions to this. One, which is very expensive, Anna is related, and that's that crossover or walkover thing. But I think first thing the town has to do is get somebody's attention in DOT and say, we need to reduce the speed in this area. We need to put up those lights, those flashing lights, whether it be in the middle of the turn lane or on the side of the road, and warn people that they're entering an area like the sign that the town has put down there now. This is a bad situation. And I'll relate it to a story. I'm going to go back many years, back in the 80s when I was sitting in the old town hall over here, and listening to a DOT person tell me that someone had to basically get killed on the bypass before they were going to make the bypass safer. Well, that actually happened, and it happened within the distance of the fire station and the town hall. And I remember that day very, very vividly as I went to one of the cars as a responding fire person, and the person was hanging out of the window of the car where they just had a head-on collision. It was a van, and the motor was laying on the street on the back side of it. Now, you know, DOT uses calculators and computers and everything else, but I think we need to use common sense. And I think the common sense approach to this is to get them to reduce the speed on the causeway in that area, to put up the flashing lights, and then to work toward a walkover there. We're encouraging people to take their lives in their own hands, and it's just not, it's not a safe situation. I've also contacted Cliff. I've contacted our police chief. I've contacted Paul Tyne. I've contacted the DOT through Jerry Jennings' office with Jason. I can't remember his last name, but I've asked all of them, and I'm willing to go even further than that to try to get somebody's attention, but I don't want to draw away from the attention that the town's putting onto this. You know, there are ways that you can draw some real attention to this through the television stations in Virginia and the local media, like Phil's sitting here. But we really need some common sense solutions to this, and not allowing the situation, as Jerry Jennings said, it's a better situation than it was. I just don't think that it is. Thank you.
Lester, thank you for your efforts. It's the pleasure of the board. I hear consensus to.
Oh, yeah, as I said earlier, there's two issues here. The lighting is one, but the number one issue is life safety, and the life safety issue there is there, we went up that road once before about the overpass, about the walkovers. They were great ideas, and even back in the day when Kitty Hawk Kites wanted to pay for that one over there, and DOT said, not just no, but hell no, you know, we're not gonna do that. Lights, either traffic lights or blinking lights, whether they be button activated or whatever, yeah, that issue needs to be brought forward to DOT. Get in touch with Malcolm, do whatever we need to do. You know, it's just we haven't done anything about it yet. Reduce the speed along in that corridor there with the blinking lights, and do whatever it takes.
Well, some immediate things, it seems like.
Streetlights could be pretty much done quickly. I mean, we did install some streetlights down there at Whalebone pretty quickly. Streetlights would be an immediate help, and then work with DOT to go ahead and say, let's get some long-term solutions here.
But I think since two of us have already made phone calls to DOT, I think it's going to take a letter from the mayor saying that the board is on board with these solutions, whether it's a light just like at Jockey's Ridge, or whether we want caution here, caution there, or whatever. But let's don't wait until some awful wreck happens.
Well, that's what it took at Jockey's Ridge.
Well, the other thing, if we're having
yeah.
if we're having issues with DOT, and it sounds like every time we turn around there's one issue or another, then we need to open up a chain of, or a can of understanding between us and the state DOT. So, I mean, you know, at one time, we had a really good relationship, I thought, with DOT. You know, evidently, that's not there anymore. So, you know, I think maybe, Mary, you need to, you know, get on that.
Some things move faster than others.
Well, no, again, if we don't have this relationship between us and Department of Transportation anymore, when it sounds like we don't, then we need to do something about it. And if Malcolm is the new representative for DOT, then we need to pour it on Malcolm.
And he wants a good relationship.
Yeah.
He is actively soliciting good relationships.
I hear a couple of solutions. I hear signage on both ends of it, lighting at the actual spot, and then looking for some type of better long-term solution. Streetlights was I think there are a couple of things that are in our power, and streetlights, I think, would be one of those, and would be a help. And signage on both ends. I'm not sure if that's in our purview or not, but at the least, we can use our message board. I think that's a great use for the message board. So we'll take what immediate steps we can and have that letter to DOT. We'll get it drafted and get it off to them.
And who exactly at DOT are you going to send the letter?
Jerry Jennings, I think, is probably the most appropriate person, but then you copy it kind of all the way up the chain. And as Doug said, it's a life safety issue.
I mean, Jerry, again, we lost our guy with DOT that we were very close with. He died, and of course Jerry was always on board back then too. I don't know what happened. So, I guess it was Mark. I mean, when Mark left, that was it. So.
There's 4 years worth of emails.
We just need, I think, to make, maybe a phone call from me or a phone call from Renee or Buster is just a phone call, but we need to make sure our DOT representative is well aware of the problem that we see it, and we need his help, his intervention to get something done.
Malcolm used to, when I was still the fire marshal, Malcolm would walk in over there and say, and always walk up to me and say, well, what has the town of Nags Head done for me lately? So I can't wait to reverse that.
Way to go, Doug.
Okay, well, we will get a letter out with that content and move through that. Commissioner Cahoon, anything else under your agenda, ma'am?
The only comment that I've had so far is there are people that in the cleaning community that are worried about the possibility of one less trash can to dump their trash in if we're going to send it to recycling. The cleaners are starting to have some angst. So that's just a comment that I'm passing on.
Well, I think maybe that's just an educational issue with the property owners of.
They're the ones that are stuck hauling all the trash out on Saturday afternoons when there's no pickup, and worried about not having enough space to put their trash in if we're taking one can away from them.
But that one can is supposed to actually reduce the amount of, I mean, now Cliff, you know more about this than I do, so maybe you want to say, and it's supposed to reduce?
Before it was all trash. And if there were 4 cans, it was all going in 4 cans. It's still all going into 4 cans, but the recycling goes in recycling and the trash goes in trash. So they're not producing, unless they're producing more trash, they shouldn't need another trash can.
They're just concerned, and I'm passing it on, because they're the ones that are tasked with making sure it gets to the street and out of the house.
They're where the rubber hits the road.
That's right.
Now, picking up on Tuesday, is there a potential for a change on that? The reason we don't pick up trash on Saturday afternoon or Sunday afternoon is because of the transfer station. Does the recycling group have those same limitations? Because really what you're having is last week's recycling sitting there until Tuesday when somebody else comes and picks it up. There may be a better day for that, and that might be something that we want to take a look at with our recycling folks.
That's it for me.
Commissioner Seibel?
I will just remind us all that the 4th of July is tomorrow, and thanks to the Tourism Board again for subsidizing the fireworks that will be held on the Nags Head Pier, and thank Lovey and Andy again for giving up a whole day and evening of business to allow the fireworks to be had. I think it's great. And I don't believe we're going to have a rain date, which would make them have to give up 2 days. It's clear forecast tomorrow, so again, thanks goes to there. I don't know, I know we all got the brochure. I don't know where these are, Cliff, for the visitor to Nags Head, but this was well prepared this year. And I don't know, Roberta, I'm sure had most of it or all of it. But where can people get this? Where is it available?
Local businesses. I have them.
Well,
I'm glad I took that down to your business. Local businesses and each visitors bureau, the one over here in Manio and the one at Kitty Hawk and in Town Hall and the fire stations and all town offices.
Good. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And the Is there anyone going to speak on the speakers that spoke this morning on their issues? I think the one gentleman was complimentary of everything and hope we pass something, but actually Gary brought up something about...
I was going to bring up Gary's
okay.
Beer at the Pier piece.
Right, okay. That is... That's it.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Commissioner Walters? Mayor Pro Tem?
Not a thing, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. I did want to bring up Gary's concerns about beer at the Jeanette's Pier. There's been some discussion on that, and it was brought to me by Gary Oliver. Renee may have more information on that. But there was a concern about the pier competing with private businesses, and also I think the underlying concern there is not just serving beer and wine on-site or off-site, but also the potential for a restaurant coming in to the Jeanette's Pier top of the building and competing with our local businesses. There were, I think, we asked the pier to come here, but we also put some conditions when we asked them to come. And that's the concern. They are dealing in a different environment as well. I did ask Ben to take a quick look at what the town's authority on, I think Gary mentioned some type of local ordinance that asked for a special permit in order to serve alcohol at a publicly owned facility. So, Ben, can you give us just your initial take on that? We didn't give you an awful lot of time to exhaustively research it, but if you could give us your insights on it, I'd appreciate it.
Generally, it's the ABC Commission and its rules and statutes, for the most part, control permitting issues for ABC stuff, including beer, and they would be controlling of the pier. There have been some cases in North Carolina, not exactly this sort of case, but similar cases where local ordinances have not made it because of the overarching preemption of the state. However, the state regulation, when it passes the permits, they do provide you with a form, which I believe goes to Chief Brinkley, and it seeks comments for every permit of the town through its board, and that's one step that could be a point of making some comments and objections. And also, when they issue these permits, they've got a list of things that they're supposed to go through to think about when they issue them, and things like the reputation and character of the applicant, those things we would expect, and other things about the number of other things in the area, the general vicinity that have alcohol permits, and it says zoning laws. So I'm not sure how they take into account zoning laws that on the one hand, and then in other cases say that you can't have a zoning law that overrides the issue. So I would say that there seems to be some leeway there, but it would take some more detailed investigation to come up with the best way to attempt to address the issue.
Ben, thank you. I will add that I did place a call to Neil Connolly, who's the head of the Aquarium Society. I think our thinking was that this would probably come through the Aquarium Society as opposed to the state. He did indicate that there had been no discussion on this at this point, and that it wasn't something that they were contemplating. So take that.
Well, I will.
That I get different information, so.
Oh, yeah, the rumors are out there. I mean, they.
Mine wasn't from a rumor, mine was from somebody, but I'm not willing to discuss who, but, that it's out there, and I think we do need to be aware, because there were commitments made, when the pier came in about the, event hall versus a restaurant, that there would be no restaurant, and
There is concern that those commitments are going along the wayside, and alcohol being one of them is step number one.
I think you're correct, Mayor, that it's who is talking. Is it the society or is it the state? And I remember well a number of times being on that committee early on. Susie sits on it now. Neil Connolly has said emphatically there will be no alcohol on that pier. So I truly believe that it is not the society that's pushing this. But that's not to say that this is not being pushed, because we all have heard the rumors that privatization of the pier is more than likely going to occur down the pike. And so you either, I mean, we had agreements with the pier at that time for a number of things. The one being that would be an event room versus a restaurant. I think the whole thing boils down to, what does this board want to see from the future of that pier? Do we want to, I mean, I see it as an educational, a very important educational piece of our landscape. I mean, it blows my mind that they want to sell beer, but I think it's an underlying issue that they need to cover for it to get to the eventual privatization and a big restaurant there. So it boils down to, does this board, is that what we want to see that pier have? And if you do not, if we do not, then there are steps out there to take to prevent that from happening, because it will happen once it changes its ownership.
It's a huge draw for the educational component with the number of school buses that are there. It was amazing to me, in the light of a lot of the budget cuts, how many schools still were able to go have educational components at that facility. And I don't think we need to encourage alcohol and education on the same site.
They do not. There are many reasons why we don't need to encourage the alcohol at that site. I mean, that site is used by so many sporting events that's not a part of that element. When you then allow it to be there and out into, I just visualize the problems that are going to occur with the selling of alcohol that close to a big event site.
I do hear some board consensus to at least investigate what we can do to restrict that eventual sale of alcohol, and I'm going to ask Ben, with the board's permission, to investigate that a little bit further, get some more information, bring it back to us, and see what our options are. And I mean, I'd encourage everybody to continue to talk to the folks that are on the both the Peer Advisory Committee, the Aquarium Group, and the folks at the state, because ultimately it sounds like the state may be the one that ends up making that decision. And while we can pass an ordinance, the state doesn't always listen to us. But it should be incumbent on us to do what we can. Is that fair? Okay. Want to remind everybody that the municipal filing times are coming up. You've got from July 5th to July 19th to file. We do have several seats available for interested citizens. I want to encourage everybody to get out and participate, and I look forward to a good exchange of ideas and putting the issues out there for the people of Nags Head and giving them some good choices, and I think we'll have some good choices. Best wishes to all on that, and I'm glad not to be in it. I will ask y'all to consider replacing me on the Regional Planning Organization Committee. Meets in Hertford. Elizabeth has been the trooper on this. I have not participated as much as probably I should, but I'd like for y'all to consider somebody else for that position, perhaps at the August meeting. So if you'll think about it, see which of y'all might be willing to serve on that, I'd appreciate it.
Perhaps at the December meeting.
Mayor, if I could interject, and I apologize, but one thing, when we have met with Representative Malcolm Farron, he has stressed how important that RPO has now become because of the changes in DOT and the changes in the distribution formula, that it matters now. Whereas before, I mean, they weren't always the most fruitful and enjoyable meetings, but now I think, according to Mr. Farron, those meetings we're going to need to take an active role, or we won't be heard and we won't be funded.
I can remember long ago attending a couple of those meetings. You are so correct. But I want to ask the mayor, how often are you guys meeting? And
Once a quarter?
Quarterly?
Is
Yes.
it-
I believe
is
it's
it-
quarterly.
Once a quarter.
and you have another meeting
It will
when?
just about bore you to tears, though. I'm sorry.
Well, I remember well. It's worse than an IRS in audit sometimes.
I'm not sure about that one, but
Well, I haven't had one of those in a few years.
if y'all would consider that,
Okay.
again, sooner would be better than later, I think, to get somebody off to a running start on it. And again, fireworks at the Nags Head Pier at 9:25 on July the 4th. Want to remind everybody for that. And thank you again, as Anna said, to Andy and Lovey. They have made it happen, along with our Public Safety Department. Yes, sir.
I wanted to call on Chief Zork under my agenda, but he went out to tend to that accident on the causeway. He just had some good news to share.
All right. Well, first off, I do have two items I wanted to bring up briefly. The good news is the town was recently notified that we received a $34,000 assistance to firefighters grant for the purchase of turnout gear for firefighters. And so that will go to replace some woefully outdated gear that is fast reaching and end of its service life. And so that will contribute to the safety of firefighters. And I want to thank FEMA for that in particular. We have a small match that we have to satisfy, but it's a 95.5 grant, and so the majority of that is being picked up by the Assistance to Firefighters grant. I also wanted to bring up something on a more serious note. I'm sure that you and the viewing audience has either watched or read about the tragedy that's been unfolding in Arizona the past several days. And just wanted to extend our thoughts and prayers to the families and the community of the 19 wildland firefighters who lost their lives this past Sunday. And this was near Prescott, Arizona, and apparently a fast-moving fire changed directions and overwhelmed them. They tried to shelter in place, but in vain. They were not able to survive the event. It again brings to mind our appreciation of emergency services and the dangers inherent in such professions and the sacrifices that they make. This is the largest single wildland firefighter loss since 1933. And so it truly has deeply moved the entire fire community and emergency services in the country. The town of Nags Head extends our condolences and hopes for Prescott's recovery in the coming months and years. It's a very difficult time for them. So I just would ask that everyone recognize that in their own special way and observe a moment to think about that.
Thank you for allowing that.
Thank you, Chief.
On the rec.
I'm sorry.
When are they going to give an update on the rec? Cliff,
Update on what?
the rec? Can you say?
Update.
The more recent events. Hope everybody's okay in the
The
wreck.
one now?
Yeah.
Do you have any details that need?
That's what he said. Everybody okay is all that?
I'm happy to say that the injuries were minor. It was a head-on collision in front of the Quality Plus. It was not in any of the two areas that we recently discussed, but there were ample emergency services there to take care of things. And I think the roadway is moving now, and things should be back to normal.
Thank you.
We did have a request for a closed session, 2 items. One was update on Cherry Inc. under General Statutes 143-318.11, parentheses A3, and another for acquisition of real properties located at 204 West Lost Colony Drive and 2620 South Bridge Lane to GS 143-318.11A5. And I'll make that as a motion to...
I believe there was also going to be one to consider closed session minutes, Mr. Mayor.
There is, as a matter of fact. That would be under my agenda, wouldn't it? That would be closed session minutes from January through June of 2013, GS 143-318.11A1. And I'll make that as a motion that we go into closed session to
Second.
consider those things. We have a motion, we have a second. Further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, like sign. We're going to retreat to closed session. Gallup to report out from the closed session.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. With regard to the closed session related to litigation, no action was taken. With regard to the closed session of acquisition of properties, no vote was made to acquire any property. And with regard to the closed session minutes, certain minutes were approved, and certain minutes were also approved for release to the public, as their purpose would no longer be frustrated.
Thank you very much, sir. With no further business to come before us, we're going to stand in recess until our mid-month meeting, July 17th. Now, there is a different time on that meeting, y'all. We've got it at 7:30 instead of 7. So you're welcome to show up at 7, but we've got it set at 7:30, I believe.
All right, motion to adjourn.
Second.
We're in recess.